Chapter 51. The Kingdom of Sook. Kingdom of Sook. This is Kar's third target location. More than a month has passed since the last separation. Because the weather in New World is so unpredictable, most of the time was wasted on traveling. But fortunately, as long as he conquered the Sook Kingdom, his goal would be accomplished, and he could return to Beehive Island to have a good rest. There were actually no entertainment programs on the sea. Driving aimlessly on the sea made every member of the ship seem a little irritable and bored, so Karl played poker, mahjong, chess, Monopoly and other games and methods. Come out. This makes the somewhat boring sailing life more interesting. In his free time, he also does physical training at the bottom of the cabin. He specially asked a technical person from Rock's Pirate to help him get some weights using special means, in the style of bracelets, which he wore on his wrists and ankles. The effect is quite good. If you wear it on your body, you can feel hundreds of tons of pressure anytime and anywhere. It did bother him a little at first, but gradually he got used to it, and then he kept adding more bracelets to his body. Bump. 13. Give me money, give me money, give me money. The interior of the pirate ship deliberately opened up the second and third floors and turned it into a huge lounge. When Karl was bored, he would sit in the lounge and watch his pirates playing cards here. After all, if he played next time, he would win every game, which would be very boring. After all, the crew members are not stupid. If the captain loses badly, won't they all be unlucky? So Karl discovered him after playing a few games and never touched him again. Crunch. Captain Karl. The Sook Kingdom has arrived. Just as he was watching the people below having fun, the door was pushed open and a thin pirate broke in. It was Sir, the pirate group's lookout vanguard. Oh, it's finally here. These boring days almost make me sick. Well, everyone, don't leave yet. Karl first looked at Sewer, and then glanced at everyone present. The pirates present also know Captain Karl's character. Captain Karl is the kind of person who is cold on the outside and warm on the heart. They can also see how good they are, so they usually joke with Karl occasionally. Right away, Captain. Hurry up and give me the money, I won. 13. The pirate who won the money had a big tooth and laughed loudly. Go. Go. Go, let's go aside. Captain Karl has given the order, let's go quickly. One of the pirates who lost money immediately overturned the card table to the ground, then drew his long knife, turned around and ran out. You're waiting to come back. The pirate who won the money saw everyone running out, so he had no choice but to follow them. I just want to settle the score with them when I go back. Really, there is never an idle moment. This is our last goal. Once we finish it, we can go back. Karl stood on the deck, his eyes a little blurred, looking at the Sook Kingdom in the distance and said, Come on. Go back as soon as you're done. That's right, I also want to show them something new and exciting. Then come on, I'll go first. Plop. One pirate couldn't wait and jumped off the ship before it could reach the shore. Then more pirates followed him and rushed towards the Sook Kingdom. Obviously, wandering at sea for a long time has made most pirates feel irritable. If it weren't for board and card games to relieve stress, there's no telling what would have happened. Ding ding ding. Rock's Pirate is coming. The Sook Kingdom has also known for a long time that Rock's Pirate has recently taken crazy revenge on the New World franchisees. The powerful franchising countries will naturally wait patiently, while most of the people on the island of weak franchising countries like them have already run away. Those who stayed, except for some who didn't want to leave, were the old, weak, sick and disabled. As soon as the pirates washed up on the shore, they saw people kneeling on the shore. The pirates hope that you will not cause innocent killings. You can take everything on the island. A short old man about 1.5 meters tall emerged from the crowd. I am the mayor of Hyde Town. Most of the residents on the island have fled, leaving only the old, weak, sick and disabled like us. I hope you fellow pirates will show mercy. The pirate didn't know whether he should go up or not. Because after all, they have never encountered such a thing. Normally, if you rush to a kingdom and go straight up to kill, there is no saying that you will kneel on the ground. This made it difficult for them to start. Old man, please get up. Karl came from behind. Go and move the wealth on the island. Let's leave. If there is no resistance on the island. After hearing Captain Karl's order, the pirates did not attack these old, weak, sick and children. Instead, he rushed towards the palace of the Sook Kingdom. When the pirates rushed to the palace, they found that there was no one inside. But fortunately, the treasure house still collected a lot of wealth. As for the king and others, they should have run away long ago. After all, it has been a month since they went to sea, and the forces on the sea fled one after another when they heard that it was the Rock's pirate. Now we can say without any hesitation that the entire New World is a world of pirates. Carl releases observation hockey and discovers that there really aren't any strong people on the island. But after sailing on the island for less than half a month, my body was a little rusty, so I thought I'd better go to the island for a walk. In fact, when the pirates found that there was no resistance, they ran into various residential buildings one after another and began to loot wealth. So they moved their wealth to the ship like ants moving. Carl walked into the city and began to see the prosperity unique to the pirate world. While walking, he saw an auction house. When he walked in, he saw that there was nothing inside and it had been emptied out long ago. People in the dark world get news very quickly. Carl touched the dust on it and judged that the moving time was about a month. That is to say, not long after they went to sea, the people in the dark world received the news and evacuated their strongholds within the scope of their attack. In fact, what he didn't know was that although the people in the dark world were very arrogant, they did not dare to touch Rock's at all. So after learning the purpose of Rock's pirate going to sea, they immediately evacuated the corresponding strongholds on the route to avoid unnecessary losses and wait for the incident to pass before starting again. At this moment, he began to think that another month had passed and he could have another lottery, but he didn't know what good things he could get this time. You have a mission to be collected. Carl opened the system that he had not touched for nearly a month, and then he heard a system prompt. So he didn't go to the lottery first, but clicked on the task module. Side Mission 1. Please stay in Suke Kingdom for 3 days. Task reward: 10,000 store points and a normal lottery draw. Carl was a little shocked. When did the system evolve and release tasks? And why did he stay for 3 days? Why should he stay here for 3 days? And why is it a normal lottery? What about skill draws? What about talent templates? Because the host interferes with the One Piece world timeline too slowly, it has been specially upgraded. Now the system has main tasks and side tasks. As for the draws, they are all lumped together. What you draw depends entirely on the luck of the host. It seemed to be answering the questions in Carl's mind, and also seemed to be briefly introducing the situation after the upgrade. But no matter what, Carl felt a little sober after hearing this. He knew that the system probably thought he was moving too slowly. But there was nothing he could do. He had to listen to Rox. Okay, let's use the lottery first. Okay, the host lottery is starting, please wait. Chapter 52. A cheating mission. Congratulations to host for winning the prize of a Yuan Dan. What the hell? You drew the Wei Yuan pill for me. In fact, Carl wanted to draw something like skills or talent templates. Forget it, it's okay. But now that the results are out, there's not much to say. Wei Yuan pill. A pill commonly used in Chinese comics to restore physical strength. Taking one pill can restore physical strength to its optimal state within a few seconds and remove all negative effects. The function is quite powerful. Wait, that's not right. Generally speaking, the system will not give you useless things. Wait, 3 days, return to Yuandan. I think I should have guessed what it is. After thinking briefly, Carl walked to the shore and shouted to the pirates on the boat. We rested on this island for 3 days and then returned to Beehive Island. Although the pirates were anxious to return to Beehive Island, Captain Carl said this and thought it was Carl who had his own personal matters to deal with. It's okay, Lord Carl. Yes, since we have decided to stay here for 3 days, let's take some things off the ship. Yes, don't forget. 13. Speaking of this, the pirate who won the money immediately found a few people who were in the poker game and shouted to them. Soon the sound of playing cards and playing mahjong gradually began to sound at the port. When night came, the pirates occupied the houses in Higher Town. After all, they had to stay here for 3 days. They could not leave the house empty and not use it. Instead, they wasted energy building their own house. The original residents of Higher Town were driven deeper into the town. Bola, in a large house, Carl's phone rang. Crack. Hello, Charlotte Linlin. When Carl saw the shape of the phone bug, he immediately thought of Charlotte Linlin. They had been separated for a month this time. To be honest, he thought a little too. Well, Carl, you should be done here, right? On the other side, Charlotte Linlin stood in the Bloody Kingdom and called Carl. Charlotte Linlin has obviously completed her mission, so she can relax a bit. There are no strong people in the Sook Kingdom. It is over. I will return to Beehive Island after a few more days of rest. We will see you on Beehive Island then. Carl showed a malicious smile, and his tone was somewhat provocative. Well, I'm also looking forward to our meeting. Then hung up the phone. Charlotte Linlin had been with Carl for more than a day or two, so she naturally only understood the meaning of Carl's words. But maybe it's because I didn't experience that feeling with my previous husband, but I experienced it with Carl. After being separated for a month, she now misses Carl's strong body all the time. Thinking about it, her face becomes a little blushing. Captain Linlin, shall we return directly to Beehive Island next? Just when Charlotte Linlin fell into longing, a pirate broke in and interrupted her longing. Well, no, Captain Bell. Charlotte Linlin's eyes glowed red, and her entire body continued to enlarge in the pirate's sight. As a sharp pain spread across her body, her entire body became thinner. Charlotte Linlin hated others interrupting her at this time, so she ruthlessly deprived the pirate of his entire lifespan. When the pirates outside the door saw this scene, they turned pale with fright and lowered their heads in silence. They had just seen Charlotte Linlin with a slightly red face outside. She was obviously talking to someone on the phone. As a result, this person broke in, causing them to be somewhat affected. Because Charlotte Linlin's soul attack was large-scale, although Charlotte Linlin did not target them, some people present felt their souls tremble. Well, set sail and return to Beehive Island now. Charlotte Linlin showed her shy posture again and strode towards the pirate ship. She wanted to meet Carl as soon as possible. It's Mr. Linlin. After hearing the order, the frightened pirates quickly ran towards the pirate ship. As for the wealth of this kingdom, they have already harvested it. Charlotte Linlin was the first to complete the task, followed by Newgate, Golden Lion and others also completed the task and began to return to Beehive Island. On the other hand, Carl and his men had been staying in the Sook Kingdom for 2 full days. Early morning on the 3rd day, Carl didn't sleep all night. He was waiting here. He wanted to see what would happen today. In fact, he already had a sense of crisis last night. He felt that every time he stayed on this island, his crisis became stronger. So before dawn on the 3rd day, he quickly summoned his crew and asked them to collect the items on the ship, and then sailed the ship to the other side of the island. At the same time, he ordered them to return to Beehive Island if a major incident occurred. After all, if they were here, it would be a drag on him. The pirates also learned the importance of the matter, packed up their belongings in just a few dozen minutes, and sailed the ship to the other side of the island. It's approaching 12 noon. Carl had been sitting in the harbor for 6 full hours. Under Carl's perception, his sense of crisis reached its peak, and it had not continued to rise for 10 minutes. He knew that the enemy should have arrived. Sure enough, a large number of flags came out of the sea. Looking carefully, 3 marine ships were heading towards the Sook Kingdom. The leaders are marine heroes Garp and Sengoku. Garp came to the Suka Kingdom entirely because he had soldiers from the Suka Kingdom under his banner. When he learned that Carl was currently in the Suka Kingdom, he immediately led a fleet to the Suka Kingdom. He also communicated this plan with Kong Admiral in advance, and only after getting Kong Admiral's permission did he lead the fleet over. Because Carl is not a small threat recently, and he is also the captain of the 7th Division, a relatively weak person. If there is a chance to get rid of him, it would be great. But because the Snow Lion Admiral also died in his hands, Kong ordered Sengoku to go with him. Does the sense of crisis come from you? It's really an exaggeration. Carl didn't expect that he would be pursued by Garp and Sengoku. This kind of honor was something that not even One Piece Roger had ever experienced. Blue. You can return to Beehive Island first. You are not suitable to participate in the next battle. Understood, Captain Carl. After receiving Carl's order, the pirate captain on the other side of the island immediately ordered the team to travel in the opposite direction. Since Mr. Carl is not willing to go with them, they will not become a tie to Mr. Carl here. After all, they also discovered Marine Sengoku and Garp, and knew that even if they went up, it would be useless. Instead, they wanted to spread the news to Rock's ears as quickly as possible, which might save Captain Carl's life. What they didn't know was that the reason why Captain Carl didn't leave was entirely because of the death order given to him by the system. It takes 3 days. And since they did not have the telephone contact information of Charlotte Linlin and Captain Rocks, they could only use the stupidest method to sail the ship to Beehive Island before passing on the news. System, you are really going to give me problems. Then come on. Chapter 53, Bloody Battle, Whoosh. Garp, who was still some distance away from the shore, already started hitting Carl with cannonballs on the boat. When the cannonball flew over, it formed a huge airwave, and the surrounding seawater was washed away. It's better to use a long sword. Carl took out the long Chen sword he bought at the auction and began to resist Garp's attack. He cut the flying cannonballs in half and exploded behind him. The town behind was filled with artillery fire in an instant. Although Carl does not have the power to cut iron, he has learned the Tai Chi sword in the inherited memory of the old master. So simple moves are easy to grasp. Seeing that the cannonball attack was useless and would instead destroy residential buildings, and he was the only one on the shore, Garp put down the cannonball in his hand, and then flew over on the moonwalk with Sengoku. They did not move Marine ships further forward because they knew that numbers were useless in the face of a strong battle. Carl, let's take it easy. Garp stepped on the deck of the port with his hands folded and said to Carl with a serious look on his face. There's no need to say this, right? If you can defeat me. Carl smiled slightly, with a bloodthirsty light in his eyes. He knew that if he wanted to get rewards from the system, he had to stay on this island for another day, and then the battle with them would be inevitable. Iron Fist. Garp knew that what he said had no effect, and he was not angry. He stepped on the ground and attacked Carl quickly. Bang! Although the two of them only had a tentative fight, the ground began to deform at the moment of collision. After the fight, they both took a few steps back. Sure enough, fists are still powerful in close combat. When Carl used the long sword to resist, he found that he was actually not used to using the long sword. He used the long sword to resist physical skills, which did feel a little uncomfortable. Fistbone, fallen. Garp didn't have time to listen to his nonsense and flew towards him quickly. When Carl saw Garp continue to move forward, he first put the Long Chen sword into the system backpack, and then recited a spell on the spot. Are you so impatient? The Xuanzong of heaven and earth, the root of 10,000 qi, has been cultivated for hundreds of millions of kalpas. He is the master of my supernatural powers. Within and outside the 3 realms, only Tao is the most respected. His body has golden light, which reflects my body. Carl immediately covered his body with a golden light spell, and a little golden man appeared. Bang 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 bang. The two soon fought several times. Shockwave. Just as Carl and Garp passed each other, Sengoku, who was already in the form of a giant Buddha, came to the left. Thunder Fist. Carl immediately covered his right hand with lightning to resist the shockwave. Because of his hasty resistance, Carl was instantly photographed in the dirt. Boom. The next second Carl jumped out of the soil. That's a bit unkind, Sengoku. After all, it's Marine Vice Admiral. Why use a sneak attack? Carl patted the dirt on his body with a relaxed expression. You are a pirate and first am a Marine. I can use any means to deal with you. Sengoku's golden Buddha statue has a serious face. Shockwave. Iron Fist, impact. In the next second, the attacks of the two men attacked Carl. The true form of Titan. In the shocked eyes of Garp and Sengoku, Carl instantly transformed into a 30-meter tall Titan, waved his huge right hand, and shattered the two shockwaves. Garp and Sengoku had no idea that Carl actually had this form. What devil fruit is this? Garp paused and scratched his head in confusion. A mountain titan? Sengoku is a bit more knowledgeable. He knows about titans, but the shape is a bit different from the recorded mountain titans. First of all, the size is not that big. This is my second time using the titan's true form. The first time was the Snow Lion Admiral. The low voice sounded like muffled thunder. Damn it. Iron Fist, fall. His words angered Garp, who was covered in armament hockey and rushed toward Carl angrily. Thunder. Carl's Titan true body was covered with thunder, and then he pointed his right hand towards the sky, and the sky was instantly covered with dark clouds, attracting violent thunder in the sky. Carl was not vague. After a brief contact, he knew that he was no match for the combination of Garp and Sengoku, but he was not someone who gave up easily, not to mention that there was a rejuvenation pill, which could be continued if it didn't work. One life. Buddha Mudra. Sengoku immediately sat cross-legged on the ground, his body gradually enlarging to dozens of meters. Then he gradually pushed his right hand towards the sky. A golden shockwave with very obvious intensity met Carl's thunderous force. Bang! The moment the two energies intersected, a dazzling light erupted in the air. Heaven and earth are silent. The center point of the energy impact formed a huge spherical vacuum, and a very regular semicircular pit appeared on the ground. Boom! Carl's Titan true body was severely imprinted on the mountains by the energy shockwave. And Sengoku's side isn't much better. His golden Buddha body was somewhat broken. Iron Fist shattered. Although Sengoku couldn't immediately use his second attack, there were two of them. Seeing this good opportunity, Garp quickly took action. Bang! Carl waved his right hand and met Garp's Iron Fist. There were bursts of sizzling sounds where the two fists met. Carl, let's just go ahead and capture him. It's still very early. While speaking, Sengoku had recovered and immediately joined the battle group. Carl and Garp stood up immediately after a duel. The battle has just begun. Buzz. Carl unleashes his Conqueror's Haki. An extremely oppressive aura burst out from his body and attacked Garp Sengoku. You actually have Conqueror's Haki, I can't even keep you. Sengoku was a little shocked. He didn't expect Carl to have Conqueror's Haki. We can't let him grow any longer, otherwise he may become even more difficult to deal with than rocks. You must know that according to the information they received, Carl is only 19 years old now. At the age of 19, he has admiral-level strength, and his threat level has even surpassed that of rocks. If we don't take advantage of this opportunity to get rid of Carl here, it will be even harder to get rid of him in the future. Garp. Sengoku looked at Garp, who immediately understood. Good. The two then accelerated their attack. After all, the longer the delay in New World, the faster the support from Rock's pirate will come. They must take down Carl as soon as possible. Carl unleashed Conqueror's Haki, which did suppress Garp and Sengoku to an extent. But the impact is not huge because their strengths are almost the same. It can even be said that his strength is much weaker than Garp Sengoku. But he felt a steady stream of energy coming from the soles of his feet, and the corners of his mouth turned up slightly. I can fight all day. Carl rubbed his nose with his right hand. Bring it on. Thunder Fist. In the distant sea, Carl's team members listened to the constant banging sounds from the islands of the Suk Kingdom. They knew that their captain was in a fierce confrontation with Garp and Sengoku. What they needed most now was news was sent back to Beehive Island. As they quickened their pace, they prayed that Lord Carl would hold on a little longer. Chapter 54. The dying Carl. At this time, Charlotte Linlin had no idea that something like this had happened to Carl. But fortunately they have the habit of talking on the phone. Bola, 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 bola. At 10 o'clock in the evening, Charlotte Linlin called Carl on time. But Carl's phone bug had been destroyed in the aftermath of the battle. Carl is in trouble. Charlotte Linlin realized at that time that Carl was in danger because Carl would not fail to answer his calls at night. Zeus. Here, Mom. A dark cloud suddenly floated in front of him. It is the biological glutinous rice cake made by Charlotte Linlin using the soul fruit. Because of the spiritual connection, the dark cloud suddenly grew bigger, and Charlotte Linlin immediately stepped on it. You continue to return to Beehive Island, Charlotte Linlin said to the pirates under his banner, and then drove Zeus towards the Suk Kingdom. Captain Linlin, what happened? Who knows, since the captain said so, we have to go back and recover first. Yeah, let's go, let's go. Her crew members are actually a little afraid of her. After all, Linlin suffers from anorexia, but her relatives don't recognize her. Zeus, speed up. Okay, Mom. At the same time, Charlotte Linlin felt that Zeus was slower, and then ordered to increase the power. Meanwhile, in the Suk Kingdom, Carl, covered in wounds and blood, was fighting against Garp and Sengoku. Garp and Sengoku were not much better, and their scars were no less than Carl's. They were all masters of physical arts. Carl's ribs had been broken countless times. but he gritted his teeth and broke them with his hands. Just fight, keep fighting, attack, keep attacking. The three people started fighting regardless of life and death, and attacked regardless of defense, and started the rage mode. Carl was forced back to normal mode by Garp and Sengoku with overwhelming force, but he did not retreat. Half a step, without stopping the attack. Clang, 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 dang, dang, dang. The three people in the battle were fighting at extremely fast speeds. Sparks were flowing in the air for a while. Although it was already dark, their confrontation seemed to light up the entire land. The harsh friction sound in the air was even more continuous. For 10 hours, the three of them had been fighting for a full 10 hours without stopping for a moment. Dozens of afterimages even appeared in the air, and some of them were dissipating. But overall, it has become more. It's no longer possible. My body can't bear it anymore. In a confrontation, Carl felt physically weak for the first time. It should be over soon. Ah. Yes. After a collision, Carl hit the ground. Garp and Sengoku in midair admired Carl somewhat. After all, with Carl's strength, if he doesn't want to fight them, it shouldn't be a big problem to go alone. Because they all experienced Carl's lightning speed. Hoo. Carl sat up in the air, breathing heavily. Then he took out a green pill from his pocket with his right hand, which was the Weiyuan pill. As soon as the Weiyuan pill was taken out, a strong breath of life exuded from its body, which was instantly sensed by Garp and Sengoku. No, stop him quickly. Sengoku rushed over immediately upon seeing this. Gulu. Unfortunately, it's too late. Carl put it into his mouth as he took it out. When the Weiyuan pill passed through his throat, he felt the life energy that the Weiyuan pill exuded all the time, which was rapidly restoring his physical strength. The second game has begun. In just a few seconds, Carl felt that his physical strength had returned to its peak state. Bang! At this time, he quickly stood up and resisted Sengoku's attack. Well, not good. Sengoku immediately thought of the thing Carl ate, because under his perception, Carl's power seemed to have returned to its original state. He could even clearly see that the scars on Carl's body were disappearing at the speed of the naked eye. Ha ha ha! This is something you can't imagine. Let's come again. Carl stood in midair and shouted wildly. He did not expect that the power of the Weiyuan pill was really so powerful and could really help him recover his physical strength in a few seconds. Evil can never defeat justice. Garp appeared in front of him instantly. Boom! The second battle begins. This time, their battle gradually moved from the edge of the island to the capital. Where they passed, some buildings were destroyed to the point of disgrace. The people on the ground stayed away from them. Wherever they hit, the people retreated in the opposite direction. Are these two Marines? An old Whitebeard looked up at the sky with a miserable expression. Looking at the cape, it should be Marine. His wife slapped him on the shoulder. I didn't expect that person to be so strong. Many people who had seen Carl expressed surprise. They didn't expect that the pirate leader who came to the island and treated them reasonably would be so strong. This would make it difficult for them to survive in the future. The loud noises in the sky from time to time told them that fortunately they did not mount resistance, otherwise no one would want to see the consequences. The island was trembling and the dark clouds in the sky were scattered. Carl's current points are enough to buy another Yuanhui Dan, so he wants to exhaust the two people's physical strength and evacuate. Moreover, the system allows him to stay on this island for 3 days, which should be about the same amount of time. Sengoku was suffocating in his heart. He must let Carl die here no matter what today. He could not let Carl continue to grow. It is enough to fight against the two of them now. If it reaches the peak of strength in another 10 or 20 years, wouldn't New World really be the world of pirates? This was something he couldn't tolerate. He glanced at Garp. Garp immediately understood what he meant. Garp immediately stepped forward to attract Carl's attention. He soon got into a fight with Garp, Lionseal. Just after Carl turned his attention to Garp, Sengoku used Conqueror's Haki's right hand on his side and slapped Carl's waist hard. Wow! The moment he hit, Carl flew backwards and a mouthful of blood sprayed in the air. Domineering. Carl didn't expect Sengoku to be so domineering. Moreover, in his perception, the power of Ba Tang kept tumbling in his body, and he could not even recover for a while. He knew his life was in danger now. It's time to call it a day, Carl. The ensuing battle Garp withdrew. Sengoku stepped forward to fight Carl fiercely, each blow carrying domineering power. Gradually, Carl's body became overwhelmed. Bang! Puff! But Sengoku did not give up any opportunity to fight. During the battle, he had already known that Carl's physical recovery was amazing, so he did not give him a chance to breathe. Seeing Carl's body crumbling, he knew that Carl could no longer hold on. Sure enough, under his violent blow, Carl's right hand was broken directly, and the hand bones penetrated through the skin. Ah! Carl had never experienced such pain. He hurriedly stuffed the bones in his left hand back with his right hand and spliced them together. After suffering from a long illness and having broken bones numerous times in various parts of his body, he gradually mastered how to put the bones back together. But it's no use now. Even if he fights back, he doesn't have any more energy to recover now. The entire right hand can no longer use strength at all. Sengoku didn't give him a chance to breathe. With the continuous attacks, Carl didn't even have a chance to take out the Weiyuan Dan. I won't die here, right? I haven't fulfilled my dream yet. I even have 3 children who haven't been born yet. Puff. But Carl felt that his body was gradually damaged. He knew that if he continued like this, his life would come to an end. I am Lux D. Carl. My life should not end here. With Carl's roar, the power of Titan ushered in real development. His body felt a bit like a reflection of light. He felt that his body was full of strength now, but he felt that the hidden wounds in his body had not recovered, and this state would not last long. Bring it on. Sengoku immediately felt that his strength had been strengthened and quickly called Garp. 2 hours later, the roar on the island stopped. The 8-meter-tall Carl stood in the middle of the battlefield, and the blood left by his body gradually formed a depression on the ground. Finally, the battle is over. Rox D. Carl. I didn't expect that he was actually related to Rox. We didn't know that yet. Sengoku looked at Carl in the middle of the battlefield. In fact, he misunderstood. He heard wrongly. It was actually Lux D. Carl. Yeah, he's so young, he can't be Rox's illegitimate son, right? Fortunately, the battle is over. I hope nothing bad will happen. Garp said with a relaxed expression. Carl, at this moment, a roar came from the distant horizon. Chapter 55. Arriving in time, Charlotte Linlin? Yu Crow's mouth. Sengoku looked at Garp with an angry look on his face. He also knew that he couldn't blame Garp at this time. He just regarded Garp as a source of venting. Garp showed a wry smile. He did not expect Charlotte Linlin to come here. The great god of freedom in heaven. Charlotte Linlin rushed to the battlefield and saw Carl in the middle of the battlefield, thinking she was dead. First, Zeus was manipulated to launch an indiscriminate attack on Garp and Sengoku, and suddenly the entire island was filled with thunder. Garp and Sengoku went through a fierce battle and suffered a serious loss of physical strength. It didn't matter if they faced Charlotte Linlin. The important thing was that the Rox pirate was already right in front of them. So the two looked at each other with solemn expressions. They both knew the importance of the matter and flew towards the shore immediately, ordering Marine to set sail immediately and return to naval headquarters. Charlotte Linlin saw Garp and Sengoku retreating and did not pursue them. Instead, she jumped in front of Carl. When he came to Carl, he looked at Carl's empty eyes. You're not going to die, are you? Charlotte Linlin's eyes shed tears of sadness. Boom. Charlotte Linlin was a little unbelievable. She actually vaguely heard Carl's heartbeat. She stretched out her trembling hands, not disdainful of Carl's blood-covered body, and slowly hugged Carl to her chest. Boom, boom, boom. It's great that you are still alive. Charlotte Linlin laughed immediately the next second. She was not wrong. Carl's heart was still beating, but it became very weak. This was actually an emergency response of Carl's body. After he fully awakened his Titan talent, his physical body couldn't bear it, so his body's instinctive emergency response was to feign death. Let the body adapt to the modified body through suspended animation. Most of the blood on the ground was the dirty blood excreted by the Titan talent when it was transforming its body. Before Garp and Sengoku could get close enough to do the finishing touch, Charlotte Linlin arrived in time, so Carl narrowly escaped. Zeus! Charlotte Linlin shouted to the sky. Mother! Zeus actually struck Sengoku and Garp's marine ships with thunder and lightning on the seashore. Although Sengoku and Garp suffered a huge loss of physical strength, Zeus alone could not cause any damage to the marine ship at all. So after hearing Charlotte Linland's call, he flew back immediately. Return to Beehive Island as quickly as possible. Zeus looked at Charlotte Linland and then at Carl. Don't worry, Mom. Zeus immediately turned into a huge dark cloud. Charlotte Linland looked heartbroken as she looked at Carl's body covered in scars. He carefully picked up Carl's body, walked towards the dark clouds and sat down cross-legged. Sit tight, Mom. Zeus became solemn, knowing the importance of the matter. Then a dark cloud flew quickly in the sky towards Beehive Island. Carl should be dead, right? I haven't had time to see it yet. It's all your fault. In the hospital room of the marine warship, Garp looked at Sengoku with an amused look. Ha 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 ha. If he didn't die this time, he would be lucky. Now that the battle is over, Garp doesn't worry too much about whether Carl is dead or not, because the data collected shows that Carl did not kill civilians. So whether Carl dies or not actually has no impact on Garp. If Carl was a pirate who committed a heinous crime of killing civilians, then Garp would kill Carl just now even if he risked his life and death, but he wasn't. If Carl dies, his fate is bad. That's easy to say. There will be times when I have headaches in the future. Sengoku had another idea. In his opinion, if they didn't get rid of such a powerful pirate within such a good opportunity, it would definitely bring them more trouble in the future. This would be their only chance to kill Carl with their own hands, but unfortunately they missed it. Bola, Bola. The phone on Sengoku's body rang. Judging from the shape, he knew it was Marshall Hill, calling to inquire about the results of the battle. You take it. Sengoku looked at Garp with a playful expression. Ah ha ha. No, 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 I'll leave this kind of thing to you. I'm leaving first and won't disturb you anymore. Garp quickly laughed, stood up and walked out of the ward, as if someone was chasing him from behind. HMPH, look at you. Sengoku and Garp had known each other since the recruiting camp. How could he not know Garp's temperament? Then he shook his head helplessly and answered the phone. Let's see how he is doing now. Charlotte Linland flew in the sky for several hours and arrived at Beehive Island. She immediately called the station ship's doctor to check on Carl's physical condition. Wait a moment, it's coming. The ship's doctor did not hesitate to look at Charlotte Linland's anxious face, and immediately picked up the equipment in the box and began to check Carl's physical condition. First, he took the device with him, took a deep breath, and began to focus. Then he began to open Carl's eyes and carefully looked at the state of his pupils. At the same time, he picked up the stethoscope and placed it on Carl's chest to listen to his internal organs. Holding Carl's pulse with his right hand, he felt it carefully. The ship's doctor had a solemn look on his face. He had never seen such a serious injury before. Not a single bone in his body was intact, and every bone was covered with cracks. But even with such serious internal injuries, Carl still had a faint breath of life. Charlotte Linland on the side looked at the ship's doctor with a solemn face, and his face gradually turned pale, thinking that Carl could not be saved. How is he? Charlotte Linland asked the ship's doctor tremblingly, looking like a family member waiting at the door of the operation. The ship's doctor looked at Charlotte Linland's expression and immediately said in a panic. Don't worry, Mr. Carl is in good health. He knew that if he spoke slower, his life might not be protected. After all, just by looking worried, he knew how much Charlotte Linland cared about Mr. Carl. If there was bad news coming out of his mouth, he would definitely be the first to lose it. What is his physical condition now? Charlotte Linland was obviously relieved, and a charming smile appeared on her face again. Report to Master Linland. Master Carl's body's vitality is very weak and requires a lot of nutritional supplements. I will help Mr. Carl with simple treatment of physical injuries. As for the improvement of nutrition, I will trouble Mr. Charlotte Linland. The ship's doctor said with some panic, fearing that any words would offend Charlotte Linland. In fact, they didn't know the secret of Carl's body, and Carl himself was a little negligent and didn't tell Charlotte Linland. He actually has a Titan talent, but with the help of the system, he is also given the power of Titan blood. So as long as his feet touch the ground, no matter how injured he is, as long as his heart has not stopped beating, he will gradually return to his best condition over time. In fact, while standing on that piece of land, his physical strength was continuously recovering. However, Charlotte Linland quickly picked him up and returned to Beehive Island, causing him to interrupt his connection with the earth. Although he is also constantly healing his wounds, due to the lack of energy in his body, the recovery speed of the wounds seems slow. You take care of his wounds, and I'll get food. If anything happens, you know. Charlotte Linlin heard that Carl's body needed energy and didn't say any other nonsense. First she warned the ship's doctor, and then walked out quickly. She wanted to get a Sea Kings for Carl as soon as possible. After all, the food with huge power in the One Piece world is Sea Kings. Chapter 56. A rare time of cultivation. Early the next morning. After a night of rescue measures, Carl's physical characteristics have returned to normal, and all the wounds on his body have healed. The reason why he is still in a coma is because his body is currently missing a huge amount of energy and his body is exhausted, causing his spirit to fall into internal friction. Yesterday, after the rescue, Newgate, Golden Lion and others came to the ward to express their condolences to Carl, and learned that Carl was in good health. And Carl was still in a coma, so they didn't disturb him too much and left after visiting. Last night, Charlotte Linlin personally led some crew members to sail into the depths of the sea and hunt a Sea Kings that was several hundred meters long. It really took a lot of effort. Now Charlotte Linlin is accompanying Carl in the ward, thinking about how to take revenge on Garp and Sengoku. Turning his head to look at Carl's face, he looked so pale and lifeless. "Fortunately it's okay," Charlotte Linlin whispered. She gently stroked his face with her fingers, feeling his weak breathing. The scene where she saw Carl fighting to exhaustion yesterday kept replaying it in her mind. She found that some people fell in love with Carl, and their emotions actually fluctuated with Carl. This was something that had never happened before. Charlotte Linlin sat beside Carl's bed and stared at his sleeping face. She exuded a unique charm that Linlin couldn't resist. Her mood softened in front of Carl. "You need to get better soon," Linlin whispered to the sleeping Carl. There was worry and care in her voice, emotions that were almost non-existent in her previous life. She was used to loneliness and indifference, but she didn't expect to have such complicated emotions because of Carl. One fleet after another on the sea returned to Beehive Island, and the captains of each division were already on their way back. At this point it can be declared that the entire second half of the Grand Line belongs to Rock's Pirate. Finally back. Go quickly. Report to Lord Rocks that Lord Carl encountered Garp and Sengoku in the Sook Kingdom. After 2 days and 2 nights of sailing, the members of the 6th Squadron hurriedly arrived at Beehive Island. The first words they disembarked from the ship to the pirates at the port were to tell them to report Captain Rocks and to ask them to support Carl. Team leader. Your news is behind. Lord Carl has been brought back by Captain Charlotte Linlin and is in the infirmary. The pirates at the port looked at them with mocking faces. As a member of the pirates, he abandoned his captain and ran back alone. He was really not worthy of being a pirate. You must know that even pirates have their own professional ethics. Under normal circumstances, they will not abandon their captain and escape alone. Are you back? The pirates who came ashore did not say much to him, nor did they pay attention to his taunts. Instead, they parked the boat and ran towards the infirmary. Captain Carl. Some loyal pirates ran towards the infirmary. The leader was none other than the lookout, Joel. After all, he was bullied before in Rock's Pirate. Since joining Carl's team, he has never been bullied like this again. As a result, he was very grateful to Carl. If it hadn't been for Carl, he wouldn't have been bullied by whom yet. Master Carl needs to rest now. You should go back to the station first. As soon as they ran to the infirmary, Long Yi and Long stood at the door and blocked them back. How is Lord Carl's health? Yes, Lord Carl, are you okay? Joel said anxiously. Don't worry, we are out of danger, we just need to rest now. Long said to them expressionlessly, because he knew that Master Carl actually did not have a lot of emotions towards the pirates under his banner. Okay then, let's go back first. Joel was much relieved, and he didn't bother him anymore. Although he was still a little worried, but now that he knew Lord Carl was fine, he turned around and took some of the pirates who came with him back to the station. Ryuji, did you remember all the pirates who just came? After watching them walk away, Long Yi looked at Long who was writing furiously on the table. Don't worry, brother Long Yi is good. Long raised his head, showing a row of white teeth and making a big, okay, sign. Although Mr. Carl did not devote more emotions to these pirates, since Mr. Carl was seriously injured and still came to visit, there is value in cultivating them. Carl was trapped in the conscious space. When he called the system to understand the situation, he realized that it was the body's stress response. After waiting for an unknown amount of time, he saw a light appear in the void, so he ran toward the light with all his might. The moment he stepped past the light, his eyes opened slightly and he felt the sensation in his throat. Dry itching. Water. I'm thirsty. At this moment, there was a slight sound in the ward. After Carl woke up, he found that his body was extremely weak. Carl, you wake up. I'll bring you some water right away. When Charlotte Linlin heard Carl's voice, she immediately stood up, took the water glass next to her, lifted Carl up, and poured the water gently into his mouth. Gudong. Carl drank all the water in the glass. Then he turned to look at Charlotte Linlin with a worried expression. It's okay, I'm fine now. She couldn't help being touched, and stretched out her hand to hug Charlotte Linlin in front of her. Dong dong dong. Master Carl, are you awake? Just when there was a subtle breath in the air, Long Er's shout came from the door, accompanied by a violent knock on the door. Ahem. Come in. Carl put his right hand in front of him and coughed twice to relieve his embarrassment. He looked like a child who was caught stealing candy by an adult. Giggle. Charlotte Linlin next to her sat up and smiled softly at his appearance. Crunch. Master Carl, you are finally awake, it's great. Yes, Lord Carl, you don't even know how worried we are about you. The two of them received the news last night. They had been guarding outside the ward all day, and when they saw Mr. Carl waking up, they were laughing from ear to ear. Worrying you? But don't worry, the matter is over. This kind of thing will never happen again. Carl squeezed his left hand hard and felt that the power in his body was constantly emerging. Obviously, even if he didn't eat or drink, his physique would slowly recover, but it would take a long time. And if his perception is correct, when his body fully recovers, it will be even stronger than before. Let's go and eat. Carl opened the quilt, then picked up the clothes next to him and put them on, and strode out of the ward. He couldn't wait. Just when his feet were on the ground, he could clearly feel a steady stream of power flowing into his body from the connection between his feet and the ground. The power of the Titan was helping him recover from his physical injuries and strength. By the way, Linlin, I forgot to tell you something, you won't blame me, right? When the two people walked towards the restaurant, Carl suddenly seemed to remember something, stopped and turned to look at Charlotte Linlin. You said I wouldn't blame you. Charlotte Linlin saw that Carl looked so good. Even if something bad happened, she had no intention of blaming him. It's my physique, you know, the strength of a Titan, but the one problem I didn't tell you is. Speaking of this, Carl paused for a moment, wanting to see Charlotte Linlin's reaction. You say it, I'm listening. There was no change on Charlotte Linlin's face, she was still smiling, obviously she didn't care. My physique is called the Son of the Earth. As long as my feet touch the earth, my physical strength is infinite. Because my bloodline will continuously draw strength from the earth. And I was conscious all the time. So, Charlotte Linlin's face changed slightly, and then she thought for a moment. It turned out that Carl was standing on the ground to recover his strength, but he almost did something bad with good intentions. What's wrong? Are you blaming me? Although she thought this, Charlotte Linlin immediately looked at Carl with an angry expression. Haha, no, no, how dare you? He scratched his head in embarrassment, knowing that this topic was not suitable to continue talking about now. Let's go eat. I'm a little hungry, ha ha ha. Carl quickly interrupted this somewhat embarrassing topic, then quickened his pace and walked towards the kitchen. Look at your appearance. Charlotte Linlin smiled on the spot, and then followed closely. During this process, Charlotte Linlin felt that Carl's aura was getting stronger, and she knew that Carl was not wrong. Chapter 57. Try new power. Due to the factor of growing in size again, his appetite has also become very large. Due to the special nature of Titan's power, it can only restore his physical strength, but cannot alleviate his hunger. So eating to relieve hunger is still inevitable. Charlotte Linlin knows this very well. When she first went out to sea as a pirate, she often went hungry for 9 meals in 3 days. She had already asked the kitchen to make food for all the sea kings that she had returned from yesterday's hunt. So when Carl came to the restaurant, he didn't wait too much. Food was delivered one cart after another, and the smell of barbecue that filled the air made people twitch their fingers. It took Carl 3 full hours to eat, and this sea king's, which had hundreds of carts, was completely eaten. Puff. Belch. As Carl spit out the last bone in his mouth and touched his round belly, a burst of satisfaction filled his heart. Come. Accompany me to experiment with my newly acquired power. He couldn't wait any longer. Charlotte Linlin had already eaten, so she didn't eat much during the whole process. She just watched Carl eating so deliciously and ate a little symbolically. When Carl said this, she immediately nodded in agreement. 3 p.m. Unnamed island near Beehive Island. This should be the second unnamed island to suffer. Carl and Charlotte Linlin stand on the shore of the island. Boom. An unknown coercion instantly enveloped the entire island. The animals on the island felt this sense of oppression and moved away from here. Even the fish and shrimps on the shore swam away. Carl's 8-meter-tall body slightly expanded to 10 meters, and was covered with golden light. From a distance, he looked like an Oscar statuette. This was the complete form of the Titan. All the energy is condensed together, and there is no waste of energy. Every blow uses the power of the whole body. Carl looked excited. He had long wanted to try the power he had now, and now was the time. I'm coming. Carl just wanted to try the power of Titan's talent, so he did not cover other auxiliary attack methods such as armed colors and thunder. Well, Napoleon. Charlotte Linlin felt the dangerous aura exuding from Carl's body and laughed without hesitation. Charlotte Linlin reached into her hat and pulled out a machete, taking a defensive stance. Bungchuan. Carl used the 8th-level fist inherited from Laotianxi's template, Bungchuan. He concentrated the power at one point and the energy could be directly penetrated into the enemy's body to attack. The gun of Elbaf. Charlotte Linlin used a weakened version of Waiguo. Bang. The two men fought hand to hand, and cracks appeared in the ground. During the battle, under the impact of the energy wave, a regular, semicircular gap appeared, and seawater slowly seeped in. So strong. Ha ha ha. Come again. Carl could clearly feel that his current strength was much stronger than before, and the excitement and pride on his face were not concealed at all. Bring it on. Now that he has decided to accompany Carl to test new abilities, the battle has just begun. Charlotte Linlin did not stay where she was for too long, but immediately collided with Carl. The two soon had a fierce duel over the island. Because they were just testing their power, the two did not attack with all their strength, so the sound of the battle was not loud. Mom or Carl? Who is more powerful? Katakuri, standing on the edge of the ship, looked at the two fighting over the island, and asked his eldest brother, Perispero, with a puzzled look on his face. Needless to say, Mr. Carl must be the most powerful. Long-er raised his head, walked with a pace that he didn't recognize, and interrupted his question with an arrogant expression. No, Mom is the best, Katakuri yelled at Ryuji angrily. Master Carl is amazing. Mom is amazing. Katakuri and Ryuji immediately shouted at each other. Perispero is not as childish as them. Although it is not clear who is stronger between the two, he knows from the aftermath of the fight between the two that even if it is different, it will not be much worse. Because after what he discovered, the aftermath of their battle was no less noisy than the offensive noise between the division captains. Ha ha ha. I won't be so embarrassed next time I meet Garp and Sengoku, right? After several hours of fierce fighting, the two men stopped and looked at the mess on the island. Well, I will definitely take revenge on you. Charlotte Linlin secretly resented that she had finally found such a good husband and almost lost her. Charlotte Linlin has also wanted to find a husband who can always accompany her over the years, but those people are either too cowardly or too weak, and she doesn't like them at all, so she marries people of different races to give birth to a powerful offspring. In fact, with her height, it is very difficult to find a suitable partner. Because Charlotte Linlin is 8.8 meters tall, she is the tallest human woman in history. The giants are usually over 10 meters tall, which does not match her body shape. Moreover, she did something like that when she was 5 years old, which made the giants hate her, so the giants don't have to think about it. Not even a single giant joined the utopia of all nations that was finally established. One can imagine how much the giants hated her. Okay, let's go back. We will have a long period of rest. It just so happens that I have something to plan with you. Carl's expression softened. His newly acquired strength had been verified, and his strength had taken another small step forward. He secretly planned in his heart that since the big battle has come to an end, the most important thing next is to recuperate and lay out the plan, just in time to lay out the plan in advance. Okay, let's go back now. Charlotte Linlin was also curious about what Carl meant, but she knew that Carl would explain it to her one by one, so she did not ask on the spot, and the current scene was not suitable for two people to talk here. On the deck of the cabin, Katakuri and Ryuji were still having fun on the deck. Carl sat on the wide chair at the top, enjoying the breeze. The system opens the task template. It's time to take advantage of this relaxing mood to check the changes in the system. Main Mission 1. Create a pirate group of your own. Task Reward. Thunder Dragon Egg. Task Status, not completed. Side Mission 1. Stay in the Sook Kingdom for 3 days. 10,000 Mission Reward System Points, 1 normal draw. Task Status. Completed. Side Mission 2. Serve as the Vice Captain of Rocks Pirate. Quest Reward. Conqueror's Hockey of Rocks, Main Mission 2. Start after the completion of Main Mission 1. When Carl saw the mission reward of the Main Mission 1, he was a little confused about the Brontosaurus egg. Wouldn't he want him to hatch the egg? What is a Brontosaurus egg? The Thunder Dragon egg comes from the world of immortality adapted from anime mortals. It is 300 meters long. It is born with the ability to master thunder and lightning. It has admiral strength. It takes 10 years to incubate and takes 20 years to grow to maturity. It has been systematically reduced, otherwise time will longer. You can get this. Didn't you say you can't reward things that exceed the world limit? Carl's mind was full of questions. After all, what do you think of the Thunder Dragon eggs in the world of cultivating immortals? It's all higher than the limit in the pirate world. That's a cultivator. System. If it weren't for $% and $%n. I can't tell you from this point of view. I just don't know which one is more powerful, the Thunder Dragon or the Uranus, in the world of cultivating immortals. Seeing that he couldn't ask anything, Carl had no choice but to open the lottery page. Lottery module. There are 2 ordinary draws left. One is a mission reward, and the other is exactly 1 month old. Draw 1 first. The lottery is in progress, please wait. The virtual golden compass began to rotate slowly. All items and equipment displayed on it were the items and equipment of various anime characters. A few modules also contained skills and talents. As for the templates, I didn't see any templates. Congratulations to the host, you have drawn the equipment from the domestic animated version of 3 Kingdoms. Lu Bu's Fangtian painted halberd. Carl looked at Fangtian's golden painted halberd with great fondness in his eyes. After all, who doesn't like golden things? Click on the introduction of Fangtian Hua Ji. Fangtian Hua Ji. The whole body is made of meteorites from outside the sky. It is 9 meters long. Its sharpness is not inferior to the supreme sharp knife. He quickly took out the equipment, put his right hand on his chest, and made a holding gesture, and then the 9.8 meter long Fangtian painted halberd appeared in his hand. Well, how did Carl get here? How come I haven't seen it before? Charlotte Linlin was startled by him. She knew that Carl had never eaten devil fruit, so how did this thing suddenly appear? But she did not ask, but looked at Fangtian's painted halberd with a golden face. In her perception, the aura of Fangtian's painted halberd was not weak at all. I originally thought that Carl stretched out his hand because he was a little bored. After all, after sailing on the sea for a long time, he would indeed become bored. I didn't expect such a beautiful weapon to appear. Whose general is this? Fangtian's painted halberd is golden in color, with mysterious rune patterns all over the body, and a red tassel hangs from the tip of the spear. It's a secret. Carl didn't know what the risk was of exposing the system, but he still couldn't tell anyone, even if that person was the person closest to him, just to be on the safe side. He said a few words briefly and prevaricated Charlotte Linlin. Carl placed the weapon on the ground and started the next draw. There is also a lottery, let's use it. The wheel spins again. Congratulations to host for drawing a bottle of Shaolin Great Return Pill, from an unknown Chinese comic Shaolin Temple. The Great Return Pill? Carl was a little confused. He remembered that the Shaolin Great Return Pill increased internal strength. Could it be used in the pirate world? Clicked on the introduction to the Shaolin Great Return Pill. The Shaolin Great Return Pill cleanses the tendons and cuts the marrow, and at the same time increases the user's internal strength for 60 years, which is converted into the pinnacle of the pirate world, Vice Admiral. If you say that, don't I understand? A great returning pill is equivalent to a pseudo-admiral. Carl shook the bottle, and by the sound he knew there were 10 great return pills. This wave of rewards is okay, pretty good. 10 great return pills are equivalent to creating 10 pseudo-admiral masters, yes, yes. Carl is somewhat satisfied. The next important thing is to complete the second branch mission. Thinking of the second side mission, his face couldn't help but become a little solemn. You must know that becoming the vice captain of Rock's pirate is not that easy, and once you become one, it is not so easy to escape. But he also knew that once he became the vice captain of Rock's pirate, it would definitely be of great significance in affecting the timeline. Chapter 58. Secret Talk with Linlin reached. While Carl was thinking a lot, the fleet had returned to Beehive Island. Linlin, I have something to tell you. As soon as he got off the boat, Carl couldn't wait to lead Charlotte Linlin towards their house. Two people in the room had just sat down facing each other. Linlin, I have something to say to you. You must not spread it outside. He looked around, knowing that the entire island should now be shrouded in Rock's sight, so he slightly released Conqueror's Haki. After releasing Conqueror's Haki, it would affect Observation Haki's perception to a certain extent. Seeing Carl like this, Charlotte Linlin quickly released Conqueror's Haki. The two people's Conqueror's Haki was only inside the house and did not spread outside, which shows their precise control. Rock's pirate will definitely disband in the next few years. What we have to do is to start accumulating strength now, and when it disbands, we will establish a huge pirate group as soon as possible. This way we can occupy a large area of territory as soon as possible. We need to develop our own direct strength as soon as possible. I want to hear your thoughts. Carl looked at Charlotte Linlin solemnly. He knew that this incident would have a great impact, but if they planned it in advance, they would be the biggest winner. Real or fake? Is the news true? Seeing Carl nodded. Charlotte Linlin was a little shocked at first, with a face of disbelief, then looked at Carl's solemn expression, and suddenly understood. I understand. No wonder you adopted 100 orphans. It turns out you are working hard for this. Charlotte Linlin immediately thought of Carl, who had adopted 100 orphans before. I was still wondering why Carl would adopt a useless orphan. In her opinion, if you want to wait for those children aged 5 to 10 to grow up, it will take at least 5 years before they can be truly useful. Now it seems that Carl has already started preparing for all this. Then what do you want me to do? Charlotte Linlin had never thought about this happening, so she looked a little flustered for a moment. She had never thought about Rock's pirate disbanding, but she looked at Carl, who looked solemn in front of her. Since Carl said this, he must have had an idea in his mind. My idea is this. Let's secretly adopt and train children aged 5 to 10. On the other hand, we will gather wealth and devil fruit to lay the foundation for establishing power in the future. We are not in a hurry now. We are building walls high, hoarding food, and becoming king slowly. Carl revealed his ambition word for word. I understand. I will also start preparing secretly right away. Charlotte Linlin knows what she will do next. The two then had a long conversation based on the consequences of the incident. The finalization of various details lasted until midnight. Okay, let's bring this to an end. Carl was the first to take back the envelope of Conqueror's Haki. To be honest, after releasing Conqueror's Haki for a long time, I actually felt that it had grown. I'm a little tired. Charlotte Linlin looked a little tired, stood up and stretched. The next step is my time. Charlotte Linlin leaned over and placed her hands on Carl's two-hand seat. What time? Carl was still a little confused. He didn't know what Charlotte Linlin meant. Haven't they already finished talking? That's it. Charlotte Linlin smiled shyly, immediately picked up Carl and walked towards the bed. Woo! Just as Carl was about to speak, Charlotte Linlin blocked his lips, and then there were bursts of sounds in the room. The moon in the sky seemed a little shy, and it quickly attracted a dark cloud to cover itself. We have received the news that Carl is not dead. Naval Headquarters. Marshal Hill is holding a phone to communicate with Sengoku, who is far away in the New World branch. Got it. Marshal Hill. Crack. Even if Sengoku got the news that Carl was not dead, he still looked a little stunned. He didn't expect that Carl was so lucky that he was not dead. It would be difficult to kill him next time. At the same time, he looked at Garp, who was eating a donut in his room, and instantly threw the document in his face. Wow! As the document hit Garp in the face, Garp's rhythm of eating donuts was interrupted. Garp's face was immediately filled with dissatisfaction. Sengoku, I'm about to surpass the record of eating 200 donuts in 1 hour. Just eat. Look, Carl is not dead. Sengoku's forehead was covered with veins as he shouted angrily at Garp. What's the matter? Let's find a chance next time. Garp put down the donut, put his right hand into his nose and picked his nose, and said nonchalantly, opportunities are so easy to find, get out. Seeing that Sengoku was getting angry, Garp quickly stood up, took the donuts and walked out. Put the donut down, it's mine. Sengoku was a little angry when he saw Garp taking away his donuts. No. Garp ignored this and quickly walked out of the door. Bang. With a loud slam of the door, the room became quiet again, and only the faint sound of goats chewing could be heard. Far away on Beehive Island, the island is extremely lively today, and a grand banquet will be held today. Ha 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 ha. Well done everyone. Rox looked at them with a smile for the first time. His first goal had been initially accomplished. Rox glanced at everyone present. Golden Lion, Newgate and others were sitting upright, with smiles on everyone's faces. In the next period of time, you can do your own things. His eyes met everyone's, waiting for my next order. After looking at their expressions, Rox stood up with satisfaction and raised his glass to everyone present. The party has begun. Ouch, cheers, cheers. Since there was a traitor within them, many kingdoms got the news, causing them to plunder not as much property and devil fruit as they imagined. But fortunately, now the entire new world has no power to resist. Jia ha 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 ha. Charlotte Linlin. Golden Lion is somewhat active. He is not the kind of person who is only arrogant and does not know how to plan. The situation is now very clear. No one can resist them in the second half, so the next period of time will be a great opportunity for him to secretly develop his own power. So with the help of Charlotte Linlin, his progress will be faster. But at the same time he didn't want to use that favor. Charlotte Linlin sat next to Carl. When she heard Golden Lion's call, she knew what Golden Lion wanted to do when she looked at him. Especially after learning that Rox Pirate was about to disband, Charlotte Linlin wished that every captain would make some noise so that Rox's eyes would not be on them. Golden Lion's operation is exactly what she wants. Well, well, well. Charlotte Linlin smiled slightly and raised her glass to the Golden Lion. Golden Lion conveyed his message well, signaled to Rox, then stood up and walked to his team leader's table, and started drinking with him. Rox was sitting in the main seat, watching his pirate group prospering. Although he didn't care about the life or death of the pirates, one more person would give him more strength. He wouldn't be very angry with them now. The time of the banquet passed quickly, but Carl was not with Charlotte Linlin tonight. Instead, he returned to the station and found Clay. Clay issued his order as soon as he found him. Clay, I order you to find Cake Island secretly. Clay looked at Master Carl's solemn expression and knew that this matter needed to be resolved as soon as possible. Sir, do you have any specific information? Carl immediately took out a map from his body and pointed to a certain island sea area in the second half of New World. It's here. Carl placed the map in Clay's hand and immediately spoke of his second plan. At the same time, you are going to disappear for a while. I need you to go to the Fishmen Island. Recruit more fishmen. After recruiting the fishmen, go directly to Cake Island to find a safe route. Then come back here and report to me. This matter is very important, don't let it out, you know? Of course Clay knew the seriousness of this matter. Since he was the only one to talk to in secret, he definitely didn't want others to know. Don't worry, Lord Carl, I will come back as soon as possible. Okay, then hurry up and set off. After receiving the order, Clay left secretly. Chapter 59. The Fishmen Island, Long Yi, Long When Clay left secretly, Carl called Long Yi and Long Although the two of them are still young, they can already help him share some things, just to find something for them to do, lest Clay leaves and the two of them go crazy. How are the children doing? Don't worry, Mr. Carl. Now they have all learned the 5 elements boxing. Under the leadership of Mr. Clay, they often practice in the woods with various beasts. Although there is still some gap between the strength and ordinary pirates, the gap is not big anymore. Long Yi told the situation he knew clearly. Long Yi was much more mature than Long Er. The burden on you two may be heavier next. Carl pondered for a moment, thinking about whether this was feasible. Leaving this matter to the two of them would not attract too many people's attention. I need you two to secretly purchase children aged 5 to 10 in Beehive Island. He thought for a while, and the most indispensable thing at the moment should be time. After all, there is still a long time before the plot begins. So those under 5 years old should be able to do it, and it will be easier to develop trust. Of course, children under 5 years old are also allowed. The most important thing is that this plan needs to be carried out secretly and cannot be discovered by anyone. Carl paused. He wanted to hear what Long Yi and Long Er had to say. When Long Yi saw Master Carl's gaze coming over, his little eyes turned as if he was thinking, and then he showed a wise look. You must know that this is the first task assigned to them by Mr. Carl. They must not only do it well, but also hand in a perfect answer sheet. Moreover, Long Yi's IQ was much higher than Long Er's. Please don't worry, Lord Carl. We will buy it secretly in the name of lack of children's playmates, and we will never let others find out. Before Long Er could react, seeing that his brother had already said it, he quickly agreed. Yes, please don't worry, Mr. Carl, we will definitely keep the secret. Although Long Er was confused, fortunately he didn't ask stupidly on the spot, but thought about asking his brother later. This was also a tacit understanding between the two of them. Although Carl is still a little worried, it is impossible for him to do this by himself, right? This is already a compromise. By the way, you can give them both a workout. Okay, then I'll leave this matter to you. Carl showed a satisfied smile, touched their hair, and signaled that they could do it right away. Okay. When the two people saw that Mr. Carl had no other instructions, they turned around and walked out of the door. Two young voices began to plan. They were both thinking about how to make this plan quiet and not be discovered by others. After the two walked out, Carl was thinking in the room. How can I find two loyal subordinates and let them eat the painting fruit and the transformation fruit respectively? After all, if these two devil fruits are given to Long Yi and Long Er eats them, their own physiques will be wasted. Orphan? No, the age is too young, the time is too short, and accidents are prone to occur. Current subordinates? No, the time together is too short, the trust level is not enough, and everyone puts money before their eyes, so it is even more unsuitable. After all, the two people he chose were going to sneak into the Valley of the Gods. There was gold and a lot of devil fruit everywhere, and there was no guarantee that they wouldn't take it all for themselves, which would cause him to lose everything. Is it possible that the people on Beehive Island are dying? It seems that he needs to find time to go to sea to recruit some real subordinates. Charlotte Linlin also quickly gathered his sons and daughters together. Of course, I just briefly talked about cultivating power, and it would be useless to talk about other things. Well, did you remember everything I said? Parasparrow looked solemn and put away the notebook in front of him. Don't worry, Mom, we have already written it down. Parasparrow wrote down every word Charlotte Linlin said. Okay, now that you know it, let's implement it immediately. This is the first time Katakuri has received the responsibility of being a mother. In fact, many people on this island laughed at his huge jaw. Although after Clay taught them 5 elements boxing, all parts of their bodies began to tend to the golden proportions. But those people only dared to laugh behind his back. After all, he was Charlotte Linlin's son, so he was eager to win the important position with his mother. Don't worry, Mom will complete your task successfully. Katakuri patted his chest, his face tightened, and he looked a little cute for a moment. Charlotte Linlin knew that Clay taught them a special martial arts, but she didn't expect it to have such a big effect. After all, who doesn't want their children to look good? Well, then I'll leave it to you. Then the island was quiet for a long time. Now, except for spending time with Charlotte Linlin every night, Carl spends the rest of his time training the various powers he obtained from the Heavenly Master's template. The more he practiced, the more he discovered that what the system instilled in him was just a basic entry-level thing. Deeper things require his own continuous practice before he can master them. During his practice, he could sense the power of Master Lao Tian. The various martial arts alone were enough for him to practice for several years, not to mention the various Taoist magic spells. He believes that when he attributes all the abilities of the heavenly master to himself, his strength will definitely reach a higher level. 10 days later, the Fishmen Island. The dusty Clay drove a dilapidated boat to an uninhabited sea, right above the Fishmen Island. His expression was like Yuzu returning home. "I'm finally back." His face was full of deep longing. "Pack up the things on the boat, jump directly into the sea, and swim towards the Fishmen Island." Plop. As he dived, the sunlight gradually disappeared and was replaced by dark water, but he ignored it until a little light appeared below, and he swam hard towards the light. 10,000 meters under the sea, a dull sound of footsteps resounded through the dark Fishman Street. "Who? Stand there and don't move." The ones who made the sound were the deep-sea giant whale clan Icarus and the coral reef shark clan Arthur. During this period, the Fishman Street was under the rule of darkness, and the mermaids exiled them here. The whole Fishman Street was full of vandalism, smashing, and looting, and no one obeyed anyone. The mermaids didn't like the fishmen killing fish for food, so they banished them to the Fishman Street and banned them from going to the Fishman Island. There is no sunshine in Fishman Street all year round, so everyone has a ball of anger in their hearts with nowhere to vent, so sinful incidents happen every day. But today, Fishman Street has undergone a change. When the dark figure gradually moved forward, a familiar voice made them look at it sideways. "I'm Clay, don't you recognize me?" When Clay approached, the two immediately recognized this as one of their Fishman Street items, Master Clay. "Brother Clay, you are back. Brother Clay, where have you been these days?" Yes, Fishman Street has been very chaotic recently. In the words between the two, Clay understood the current situation. It turned out that after he went to sea, riots immediately broke out in his territory, which also triggered a larger-scale armed fight. Moreover, there is currently no one in the Fishmen tribe who can take charge of their own affairs, and now it seems that they are divided into 3 parts of the world. This has led to the chaos that continues to this day. After Clay learned about the current scene, his face showed sadness. He couldn't bear to watch his compatriots continue to kill each other. "Don't worry, I'm back and I will solve all this. Take me to find the current speaker." The two turned to look at each other. "Master Clay, please come this way." In a house with only a few candles, there were people of all sizes sitting in the Murloc family. They were of different sizes, but they all seemed very quiet. Clay sat on the largest round table in the middle, folded his hands and looked at them. "I'm done." Reg opened his mouth wide, a little incredulous. He didn't expect that Clay would actually join the Rocks Pirate and now be the right-hand man of the captain of the 6th Division. The impact of this incident was no less than a blow to them. You know, even though they are at the bottom of the sea, news from the outside can also be passed in. It has long been known that the second half of the Grand Line is now completely dominated by the Rocks Pirate family. I have not heard of it on the surface. Which force dares to stir up Rocks Pirate's beard? I'm joining. Quinn looked at Clay in disbelief. In his impression, Clay originally followed the Lane Pirates, but how could he become the Rocks Pirate in the blink of an eye? "Clay, I remember you joined the Lane Pirates, didn't you?" Clay briefly told what happened. "I didn't expect you to have experienced something like this." "That's all in the past tense. Okay, what do you think of my idea?" Clay brought everyone back to the conversation. "I think it's okay." "Yeah, I think that's okay too." Some Murlocs who were tired of fighting expressed their thoughts. They did not want to keep fighting, but the current environment forced them to fight. The Rocks Pirate is now the most powerful pirate group on the sea. Joining a pirate group like this, your safety should be guaranteed. Most fishmen consider safety. After all, their worth in the black market is still over tens of millions of belly, so they have to think carefully. Clay looked at everyone and felt that he would not get any good results for a while. "If you are willing to leave with me, just pack up and go to sea with me tomorrow. I'll be waiting for you at the exit of Fishman Street tomorrow." "Okay, that's it for today. You guys should think about it carefully." Clay was a little tired. After giving the ultimatum, he turned around and walked out of the tavern. He believes that many people will choose to go with him. Chapter 60. Clay's past. After Clay finished talking, he stood up and walked towards his home. After he left, the small room became abuzz with people discussing the feasibility of this matter. Clay naturally heard it, with a smile on his lips, and then continued to move forward. In his mind, he was constantly replaying what it was like to live here when he was a child. Clay was born into a relatively miserable family. Perhaps this is the tragedy of the Fishmen tribe. His strength and worth are completely unequal. He has never seen his mother since he was born. He can only see her true face from the surviving photos. His father said that he was captured by people on a slave ship. Human traffickers on the sea are becoming increasingly rampant, but because of him, so his father did not choose to abandon him to find his mother, but raised him. When he was 12 years old, his father got news about his mother from nowhere, and hurriedly ran to the sea to look for his mother. Naturally, there was no news about her, and she was most likely kidnapped by human traffickers. He was the only one left in the family, and he began to live alone in Fishman Street when he was 12 years old. He has experienced all kinds of dirty work and all kinds of hardships, but he has never complained because he knows that it is useless even if he complains, and no one will help him. He has experienced too many cold looks. But even so, he still thrived in this dark land. As his body grew stronger, he gradually gained the right to speak here and became the so-called master. Maybe this is the so-called ability to emerge from the mire without staining. After he became a human master, he did not bully the weak. Instead, he took care of his fellow Murlocs who had been humiliated since childhood and held up an umbrella called protection for them. Clay looked at the dilapidated room in front of him, and his mind kept recalling scenes of his father playing with him when he was a child. After he practiced the abilities that Carl taught him, he could clearly feel that his strength was constantly improving. He believed that one day he would be able to find his parents on his own, even if they were just corpses. Clay instantly clenched his fists and said viciously, "I must find you. No matter who catches you, I must make him pay the price." This place was once filled with memories of his childhood, and he could even recall his father's earnest teachings to him. "It's a pity that I can never go back." Clay rolled up the sleeves on his wrists and first removed some broken structures of the dilapidated house. Then new rocks were moved from further away. With his busy work, he quickly repaired the house to look like what he remembered. It was a pity that the people in his memory did not come back. Clay knew that he now had a heavy task and he did not have time to stay here too long. After repairing the house, although he was thinking a lot, he quickly fell into a deep sleep. But looking at his body twisting from time to time, you knew that he was not asleep. He had some insomnia tonight. There is a special way to record time at the bottom of the sea. Around 8 o'clock the next morning, the exit of Fishman Street was filled with all kinds of fishmen. Some were tall and could reach 7 or 8 meters. Small, even just over a meter tall. They are all fishmen who want to go to sea and escape from here. Aren't you here yet? It should be soon. It depends on the time. Really? We can join the Rocks pirate. What are you afraid of? Anyway, there are so many of us and we are not afraid of him lying to us. At this moment, Zack saw a figure in the distance, walking towards here step by step. Come on, come on. He knew that it was Clay coming from a distance. After all, he had watched Clay return home yesterday. Clay, come here, ha 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 ha. Do you all want to go to sea? Clay released his weak observation haki. In his shock, he could not see the end. What he didn't know was that there were 50,000 Murlocs just for those who knew the news, and there were a large number of people on the road. The total population of the Fishmen Island is more than 4.5 million. And there are more than 1 million fishmen exiled to Fishman Street. He didn't know if so many people would cause any trouble to Carl. But looking at the people in front of him, now is obviously not the time to communicate with Mr. Carl. Clay cleared his throat and spoke in a deep voice to everyone present. Those who want to go to sea have to risk their lives. I hope everyone can know. If you don't obey my orders after going to sea, I don't know what kind of punishment you will receive. Zack was the first to reply. Don't worry, Master Clay. Soon more people began to echo. We don't want to continue to survive in the darkness of this Fishman Street. Yes, if there was a better life, we wouldn't choose to go to sea. In that case, fine, our first place is here. Clay summoned the leading few loud fishmen, namely Zack from the Swordfish tribe, Bryn from the Giant Whale tribe, Cassia from the Electric Eel tribe, and Norman from the Sea Dragon tribe. Then he took out the map that Carl gave him and showed them the direction. We need to find this place first, and then I will contact Lord Carl through the phone bug. Are the tasks clear? The 4 people nodded. Clear. Clay nodded when he saw them and put the map away. Okay, let's set off. Norman from the Sea Dragon clan immediately stopped him. Etc. There are still some people on the way, can you wait for them? Clay was a little shocked. It seemed like something big had happened on the Fishmen Island. Besides, Clay thought for a moment, made a decision, and then contacted Carl through the phone bug. Then let's do this first. Clay pointed at the four of them. The four of you will be squad leaders first, each leading a team towards the target location. First, he pointed at himself and Zack. Because time was tight, he could not waste too much time on Fisherman Island. He did not have time to wait for those tribesmen who had not yet arrived. He had to complete Lord Carl's mission first. Zack and I will set off first, Bryn followed. Then he looked at Norman, who stopped him when he started talking. As for Cassia and Norman, you guys are waiting here for the next clan members. If there are too many people, Cassia will lead some people over first. If there are not many people, you two can organize the people who are going to sea and go to sea together. In the end, Clay warned with some worry. Understand? Don't worry, Master Clay. See you at the Cake Island. Several of them stretched out their right hands and waved in the middle. The fishmen at this period were relatively united. They had just been swept into the Fishmen Street not long ago. Many of them knew each other, and there were not so many conflicts between them. Deep. Set off. Clay led the way, followed closely by Zack. Follow us. Tens of thousands of people followed Clay and swam to Cake Island. After Clay left, Cassia said hesitantly to Norman. We really want to. Norman questioned Cassia instead. Do we have any other choice? The number of clan members is increasing day by day, and you should also know that Fishman Street cannot accommodate them. If there is such a good place, why stop it? Norman watched them go away and sighed softly. His face seemed to be much older. That's right. If they really had a choice, they wouldn't end up like this. After all, no one wants to see the people living in dire straits every day, and their lives are precarious. An hour after Clay left, the scene was instantly filled with fishmen again. Bryn knew he was there. Okay, I'm leaving too, you two remember to follow me. Cassia and Norman kept urging Bryn. Bryn was the youngest among them. They were afraid that if he couldn't find the way, the people behind him could still give him a ride, so they let him go. In the second. Bon voyage. Be safe. Cassia patted her chest and said confidently. Don't worry, I'm leaving first. A few more hours passed. There is no one coming further away. Cassia and Norman looked at each other without speaking, and silently led everyone out of the Fishmen Island. There were 3 groups of people, and the number reached a terrifying 390,000. If it were at the beginning of the original work, they might not have such a big influence, but they were stuck in the time period when they were just driven to Fishman Street by the mermaid tribe. This resulted in a large number of fishmen going out, and they wanted to fight for a better future for their next generation. Chapter 61. Cake Island. Clay and the others set off first, and after about 10 days of journey, they finally found Cake Island, which is located deep in the second half of New World. They walked in a straight line under the sea. The reason why they wasted so much time was because they needed to constantly determine the location of the desert sea area. Cake Island is located in the desert sea, and the second half is divided into 4 pieces. It is in the upper right corner. The desert sea area is centered on a huge island, Cake Island, and is surrounded by 56 small islands with different deserts. One has to wonder whether this place has ever experienced a war between those who have awakened the corresponding devil fruit abilities, so this resulted in permanent changes in the terrain. After all, in the original work, when Akainu and Aokiji were fighting for Martial Marine, they were able to turn an ordinary island into an ice and fire island that was half magma and half snow mountain. Finally reached. Quickly, check which route is safe. The reason why no one has come to the desert sea area before is because there are too many undercurrents under the river in the desert sea area, and most pirate ships cannot find their way in. But they were different. They were fishmen, and underwater operations were their forte. They soon found a safe route. Clay, this route is safe. No undercurrents have been found so far, but it seems that there is only 1 day per month. It's okay, keep looking at other routes. Record this route first. While directing the recording route, Clay led most of the fishmen towards Cake Island. Although there are aborigines on Cake Island, under the terror of the fishmen, in just a few hours, they have moved to other islands and are under the supervision of some fishmen. 1001, 1002. Bola, Bola. Okay, let's get here first today. Long Yi, Long you can watch them train next. I have to leave first. Turning his attention back to Beehive Island, Carl recently spent time on the island either training with a large number of children or cultivating a relationship with Charlotte Linlin. He was a little irritated by the old age life. He wasted a lot of time training children every day, so he didn't have time to train well himself. And because the order he gave to Long Yi and Long did not specify how many children would be recruited, so far, the woods behind the station are filled with more than 3,000 children aged 5 to 10 years old. Hearing the phone ring was also a rescue for him. Hello? Is this Clay? He was quietly waiting for Clay's reply. Since Clay called first, it proved that he had settled the matter. Otherwise, according to his character, he would not call Carl. Sir Carl, we have found Cake Island and have surveyed a safe route. Clay paused and said somewhat unspeakably, there's just one thing I need to tell Mr. Ka. The number of fishmen I'm going to the Fishmen Island to recruit this time may far exceed your imagination. Carl heard a hint of embarrassment in Clay's phone call. Don't worry, I can afford any amount. The most important thing now is to determine whether this complete route is safe. Hearing Mr. Carl's nonchalant tone, he immediately felt relieved and let out a breath. Please don't worry, Lord Carl. We have arranged for a fishman to be there to record every moment. If anything happens, we will record it as soon as possible. Carl knew that Clay was very reliable in doing things. That's good. I'll go there soon. Wait for me there. Don't worry, Lord Carl, I look forward to your arrival. Bah. Next, I have to go there first. Then I will take these children back. After all, if there are more of them, I can't hide them. Carl found Charlotte Linlin first. Linlin, I'm going to go to sea. I found Cake Island. I want to see our future location first. It's just a pity that we can't travel together to avoid attracting Rock's attention. Charlotte Linlin agreed. She was a little regretful that she could not go to sea, but it was really difficult to directly expose her intentions to Rox now. I understand, you go first. This is a period of rest, and the captain's departure does not require Rock's approval. This time Carl went to sea, bringing with him the same group of pirates who first expressed condolences to him when he was seriously injured last time. But Carl did not specify where he was going, but only gave a general direction, and then his big ship began to sail toward unknown waters. After all, he was not sure whether there were spies on the ship, so when he sailed the ship to nearby waters, he would go there alone so you can avoid being spotted by Rox. How about it? What did Mr. Carl say? As soon as Clay hung up the phone, Zack immediately rushed forward with an anxious look on his face and shook Clay's shoulders. Clay did not speak immediately, but looked at everyone. Facing the expectant eyes of everyone, a smile appeared on his face and he said slowly. Master Carl said he would come over in person. We must show our best spirit to welcome Mr. Carl's arrival. Bryn, as the second batch of fishmen, had also landed not long ago, and he made a somewhat strong voice. Very good. Hurry and decorate the island and look forward to Lord Carl's arrival. Then let's set it up. As Clay knocked on the board, everyone present began to get busy. Don't worry, Linlin, I will notify you as soon as I arrive. We will return to Beehive Island immediately after we finish processing here. In the future, some children from the family can be sent over first. This can be regarded as a large rear area for us. It seemed that Carl had been sailing at sea for about 5 or 6 days. Today I was still talking on the phone with Charlotte Linlin as always. Dong dong dong. Captain Carl, we have arrived at the target location. Joel, the former observer, has now become a team leader. When he learned that he had arrived at the target location of Lur Island, he hurriedly informed Captain Carl. Lur Island, on the outskirts of the desert sea area, and Aelin Island form a corner with each other. Okay, Linlin, let's not talk anymore. Then Carl hung up the phone gently and looked at Joel. He knew that when he was unconscious, Joel was the first person to come to ask him how he was doing. Although I don't know if he is an undercover agent sent by Rox, but because he currently has no one available, bringing them out this time is a certain risk. In fact, based on the comprehensive evaluation, he is quite loyal, and he only wanted to take him out during this operation. But even so, he did not expose his true intentions to them. After all, there is no room for any mistakes in what he is doing now. Okay, You guys can rest temporarily on this island. I have other things to do. If there is an emergency, please contact me through the phone bug. He doesn't want anyone with hidden dangers to know his whereabouts now. So after he finished explaining the matter, he handed him the phone number, and then walked out of the cabin alone and disappeared into the crowd. Okay, Lord Carl. Joel looked at the phone number in his hand and let out a breath. He knew that he had not yet gained Lord Carl's true trust. But in fact, what he wants most now is Carl's trust, because if it weren't for Lord Carl, he doesn't know how long he will be bullied, and he may die in an unknown corner one day, and he won't do it. Feeling a little depressed, he turned to look in the direction where Carl disappeared and whispered, "I hope I can gain your trust, Lord Carl." Then he walked back to the cabin, ordered everyone to go to the island to purchase supplies, and then waited for Lord Carl to return. Chapter 62. Preliminary Plan for the Desert Sea Area. Is this here? Desert Sea? Carl drove a small boat that came to snatch pirates and arrived at the target sea area. Many people around knew about this famous dangerous zone, and after asking about it, they knew the specific location. However, when Carl looked at the sea in front of him, he couldn't help but be a little shocked, because what came into view were uzumaki, large and small, which were completely different. Can't find the way in. It is indeed one of the forbidden areas in the second half. If anyone comes accidentally, the scene will be. Carl was standing on the boat thinking, but he did not forget the purpose of his coming. Okay, let's go in first. Carl has never been to the desert sea area, and without any specific reference, it is not clear where he can enter. But fortunately, he didn't have to drive a boat in, and his physical strength was enough to support him in flying to Cake Island. Just abandon this boat. He jumped up, stepped on the moonwalk, and flew into the sea. The abandoned boat was quickly attracted by uzumaki and disappeared into the sea. The center of the desert sea, Cake Island. Hurry up. Who is that? Don't eat it. If it's not done well, go back to the Fishmen Island. Clay looked at many murlocs, eating and drinking while setting up, and his brain suddenly felt a little congested. These murlocs were really too barbaric. However, it should be said that Cake Island is indeed a cake island. The soil is edible and the land is the base of the cake. It is soft, waxy and sweet. The trunk of the forest is chocolate, the leaves are candy, and even the river is a sweet drink. It can be said that there is nothing on the entire Cake Island that cannot be eaten. Clay also prepared a beautiful gift for Lord Carl. After they landed on the island, they briefly searched the 56 surrounding islands and Cake Island and found 17 devil fruits. Search the surrounding islands, firstly to avoid letting others know that they have settled in this sea area, and secondly, to remove some hidden threats. These devil fruits should all be fruits like paramecia desserts, which explains why Charlotte Linlin has so many gourmet-related devil fruits. The desert sea area has not been developed all year round, so a large number of devil fruit appear here. Because people on the island can't get out and are not very familiar with these fruits, no one notices any difference in these fruits. It just so happens that this time they are all cheaper for Carl. Bang bang bang. Carl stepped on the moonwalk and flew into the sea of desserts. After flying forward for more than 10 minutes, he saw the huge Cake Island and the surrounding stars of various sizes. From a distance, it looks like you are in a dessert shop. Tread. This is Cake Island. Carl had already stepped on the ground of Cake Island, feeling the softness of the ground while looking at the surrounding environment. The first thing you notice is that the earth is made of weak bread, and there are all kinds of aromas in the air. I thought the Cake Island was remodeled by Charlotte Linlin later, but I didn't expect that the original appearance was like this. This is really a big surprise. The original book did not introduce how the Cake Island was formed. He thought it was created bit by Charlotte Linlin, who loved desserts and kept collecting food-related devil fruit. He originally thought of spending a few years rebuilding it, but it looked like he could just move in with his bags. What about you? Come on, stop eating. Listening carefully, Clay's voice came from the distance. He stopped watching and walked over curiously. Just after passing through the chocolate forest, I saw Clay dragging a huge octopus man in the distance. The octopus man was eating leaves on the tree with a satisfied smile on his face and ignored Clay's shouts. Instead, chew it in bite-sized chunks. But Clay still pulled him down from the tree, but the tree had been eaten into shape and was crumbling, as if it would fall to the ground in the next second. You are the best at eating. Go and move these things. If you can't finish moving them today, you won't be able to eat. Clay actually didn't blame him much. The fish people living in the dark bottom had never experienced such delicious food. He has been doing this kind of work these days, because there are too many murlocs like this, and he wants to give them a training camp after the basic construction is completed. Fortunately, the construction of the entire island is still proceeding steadily without any delay. Lord Carl. Clay was there to teach the octopus a lesson. When he turned his head, he saw Master Carl walking towards him. He quickly told the octopus to go away, and then ran towards Carl excitedly. Tap tap tap. Sir Carl, you're here. Why don't you let me know so I can pick you up? It's nothing. I came in a hurry and it's not convenient to call on the road. Carl looked at the huge cake in the distance. There were densely packed murlocs underneath that were carrying out further construction. After all, this cake is solid. They wanted to build this cake into a fortress, so they moved a lot of hard chocolate wood and candies for reinforcement. It seems that the overall decoration and construction is almost completed. I didn't expect that their decoration progress is quite fast. After all, the cake area is not small. Etc. Clay, how many people did you recruit for me? According to Carl's perception, the fishmen in front of him were so densely packed that he couldn't even see the end of them. Although he knew from the phone bug that there would be a large number of fishmen, he did not expect that there would be such a large number. He hurriedly released observation hockey. Under his careful perception, there were more than 500,000 fishmen in front of him. Lord Carl, please rest assured that they will go to the sea to catch their food. There are too many people who have been oppressed in the Fishmen Island, so there are not many opportunities to come to the beach in an open and honest manner. Many people come here secretly. I also drove some away, but there are still some left. So much. Clay did not expect that so many fishmen would come here one after another. It can only be said that the charm brought by the sunshine to them is far greater than the crisis of life and death. There are many fishmen whose dream is to live on land. But don't worry, Mr. Carl, they will be self-reliant. They will not survive on this island. I will let them live in the sea below this island. If, Lord Carl, you don't need so many people, I will also send the remaining people back to the Fishmen Island. Clay was actually a little afraid that Carl would drive them away, so he looked at Carl cautiously. That's nothing. I can afford to support many people, but you brought me a big surprise. Ha ha ha. Carl thought that Clay would only bring him a few thousand people, but he didn't expect that he could bring so many. He finally had his first team. Moreover, murlocs can not only be used for fighting, but can also be used for fishing under the sea, rescue under the sea, reconnaissance under the sea, treasure hunting under the sea, etc. There are many places available, and of course the more people the better. And given the conditions in the desert sea area, it would be effortless to raise hundreds of thousands of fishmen. In the future, when developing the desert sea area, the more people the better. Okay, take me to see your results. Master Carl, please come this way. Clay saw that Carl did not show any expression of impatience or disgust, and the smile took over his face again, and then he quickly led the way. I am determined. Carl smiled knowingly and looked at the 15-meter-high door in the center of the cake. Master Carl, thank you very much. The fellow fishmen at the scene saw a stranger approaching, and their eyes suddenly fell on Carl. Hearing Clay's name, everyone present lowered their heads. Lord Carl. The fishmen present shouted in unison. Carl's body was slightly upright, looking at the fish people in front of him. Now that you are here, you should know what kind of things you will face. What I can guarantee is that there will be relative fairness here. I won't ask anything of you. You must obey my orders unconditionally. I need all your loyalty. The words fell to the ground. All the murlocs present were dumbfounded. They did not expect that in this era where the strong were respected, someone would actually mention relative fairness. They also thought that Carl had no other requirements for them, just obeying orders. Simply providing them with relative fairness would be a life they had never dared to imagine before. As for obeying orders, it doesn't matter to them. After all, they are now Carl's subordinates, so isn't it right to obey the boss's orders? Thank you, Lord Carl. If anyone dares to hurt Lord Carl, I will give my life. Zack stepped out from among the crowd, his expression extremely firm and serious. I am willing to die for your lord. Well, starting from today, I will assign you a few tasks. Clay had just introduced to Carl the 4 big bosses who currently manage the fishmen. They are Zack from the swordfish tribe, Bryn from the giant whale tribe, Cassia from the electric eel tribe, and Norman from the sea dragon tribe. After Carl asked everyone to disperse, he took a few people to the hall in the middle of the cake island. Carl sat on the chair, his eyes were a little hot, and he said slowly and deeply. First, accelerate the construction of all aspects of Cake Island. Second, I want there to be no one from other forces in the desert sea area. Third, I want you to set up a salvage team to be responsible for salvaging the ships that have been wrecked in the desert waters over the years. If you encounter any difficulties, please contact me as soon as possible. Okay, Lord Carl, we will resolutely carry out your mission. As the oldest fishman among the crowd, Norman could immediately analyze the 3 plans of Carl and what they were for. The first one should be that some people will soon come to this island to survive, so they will be asked to speed up the construction of Cake Island. After all, it is impossible for all of them to survive on this island, and the fishmen are very concerned about housing facilities. There is no urgent need. The second rule should be that their actions should be kept secret for the time being, and the people with their influence in the desert sea area should be eliminated. Although I don't know if there are any, but it's just to be on the safe side. Which can effectively prevent the news from leaking out. As for the third item, it is very simple. It should be gold. They have done this before near Fisherman Island. However, the competition pressure near the Fisherman Island is too great, so there are not many ships for them to salvage. Every salvage ship has to be fought over by many people. Clay will follow me. I hope that when I come here next time, the construction here will be almost complete. Please don't worry, Lord Carl. Next time you come, we will give you a satisfactory answer. Norman said with confidence that it took 7 or 8 days to see Carl come over, and a round trip would take more than 10 days, which was enough for them to complete a series of preliminary preparations. Okay, let's carry out these orders now. Don't worry, called our people. After saluting Carl, he turned around and left. Chapter 63. Lots of devil fruit. After receiving the mission, several people summoned the Murlocs outside, assigned Carl's plan to them, and led them to start executing it immediately. Clay, on the other hand, took Carl to the top floor of the Cake Island, which would also be Carl's bedroom in the future. The Cake Castle was divided into 5 floors, and a 2-story basement was developed below. Above, the first floor can accommodate thousands of ordinary people, the second floor can accommodate about 800 people, the third floor is less, only 500 people, the second floor can only accommodate 100 people, and the first floor is also the top floor. Only 30 rooms were planned according to Carl's height. It can be said that the entire top floor will be the alone space for Carl and Charlotte Linlin. When you walk inside, you can find that various building facilities are composed of various candies and various desserts. Yes, there are no other materials in the cake sea. After Clay led Carl into a huge room, he showed a mysterious smile, then bowed and retreated, saying that he was going to deliver the gift prepared for Lord Carl. Carl looked at the big pink bed in the room. When he walked in, he found that the big bed exuded a sweet fragrance. It turned out that the big bed was made of marshmallows. Then I looked around the room and saw that the decorations were very warm. It must have been decorated by a female fishman. He made a big figure, lying on the big bed comfortably with his whole body. Feeling the softness of the bed, he closed his eyes and took a deep breath of contentment. At the same time, he thought about what he was going to do next. After completing the layout, he could enjoy it like this every day. The more I think about it, the more impatient I am. Dong dong dong. A knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. Lord Carl. When Carl heard Clay's voice, he immediately got up, straightened his clothes, and walked to the bread sofa. Come in. When Clay came in, he saw traces of human figures on the bed at first glance, but the next second he turned his head and walked towards Mr. Carl. Carl noticed Clay's gaze and was a little embarrassed, because he was usually a more serious person in Clay's eyes. But fortunately, Clay immediately directed his thoughts to the tray in front of him. Carl looked at the dozen devil fruits on the tray, and his eyes instantly lit up. He really didn't expect this surprise. Where did you find it? I really like your surprise. Carl's eyes widened, and he looked very excited. He didn't expect that Clay would actually bring him a dozen devil fruits, which really shocked him. You must know that some devil fruits with useless abilities can be sold for a sky-high price of 100 million Baileys, let alone these dozen. Master Carl, these devil fruits were all found in the cake sea. There may be a hidden devil fruit. I am ordering the Murlocs to search for it with all their strength. Carl's mind instantly recalled that most of Charlotte Linland's children in the original novel seemed to be dessert-like devil fruit. It turns out they are all here. According to some devil fruit illustrations, only a few fruits have names known. They are nuo fruit, butterfruit, and licking fruit. There is still a large part, because the fruit does not know its name. There was a trace of regret on Clay's face. In his opinion, it was a bit bad to give it to Lord Carl in a hurry without finding out all the names of devil fruit. But the more complete devil fruit illustrated book was only available at Rox. He really couldn't find the names of the remaining devil fruits, so he could only give them to Lord Carl for comparison. Ha ha ha! What a big surprise! Carl did not take the devil fruit immediately, but stood up and said to Clay with a look of praise. In his opinion, Clay did not devour these devil fruits immediately, which meant that Clay had shown enough loyalty. After all, these are more than a dozen devil fruits. If Clay takes them all, he can find a lonely place to die alone, enough to spend the rest of his life. You did a good job in this matter. This is my reward for you. Now that he has realized Clay's loyalty, he must give him the reward he deserves. After all, if you want the horse to run, give it grass to eat first. Carl took out one of the previous raffle prizes, the Shaolin Great Return Pill, and handed it to Clay. What's this? Clay was a little confused. Does this sugar pill that looks like a clay pill have any effect? Carl shook his head helplessly. You must know that this is the Shaolin Great Return Pill. Taking one pill can increase a person's skill for 60 years. Forget it, he doesn't understand it anyway, so don't argue with him. Eat it and you'll realize it. Carl didn't explain too much. After all, the worldview was different. Even if Carl explained clearly, Clay wouldn't understand. It was better to let him try. Can this be eaten? Clay looked at the mud pill in his hand, then looked at Carl, looking at Lord Carl's expectant eyes. With his eyes closed tightly, he gritted his teeth and threw the mud into his throat. When the Niwan slid down his throat to his stomach, a violent energy penetrated from his stomach, making his eyes widen in an instant. There was no time to look at Carl. He was burning all over and just wanted to find a place with water to cool down. Carl had never seen such a scene, but he thought that since it was produced by the system, it was unlikely to cause any damage to the human body. Thinking about it, he was a little unsure. Fortunately, he didn't eat it. Clay hurriedly ran in the direction of the sea. He felt as if his whole body was in a sea of fire. He even felt that flames would burst out of his throat in the next second. His whole body looked red and white steam was rising all over his body. Carl followed in midair, and in the process found that dark liquid was constantly coming out of Clay's body. This should be the effect of cleansing the tendons and cutting the marrow. Carl touched his chin in the air, thought of the introduction of Shaolin Great Return Pill, and said without thinking. Plop. Clay quickly ran to the seaside. He was still some distance away from the sea. He jumped up and plunged into it. Clay jumped into the sea and was surrounded by seawater. He felt a chill on his body and the hot feeling in his body gradually receded. At the same time, he felt that his current strength had greatly improved, and even the hidden injuries on his body had healed. And in his realization, his body became lighter and lighter, without the heaviness of the past. Clay squatted down under the water and performed 5 elements boxing. What was a bit jerky in the past was now extremely smooth. The golden light spell running in the body is also thicker than before, and the defense power is greatly increased. Okay, clean it up and come up quickly. When Carl watched Clay turn into a golden man at the bottom of the sea, he knew that he no longer felt any discomfort. Hearing Carl's call, Clay stopped his movements, looked at the sea, put his feet on the bottom of the sea, and swam upward quickly. Carl stood in midair, his feet held up by a golden light spell, his arms folded and looking at Clay. You will come back to Beehive Island with me later. We need a boat that can go out to sea. Exactly, we can go out through the safe route you detected. Carl had put away the devil fruit in the room just now. He now wanted to experience for himself whether this route was absolutely safe. After all, he would not come with the boat next time. Later, he will carry out his secret plan, and will not set his sights on Cake Island for a long time. Don't worry, Lord Carl, the ship has been prepared for a long time. When he learned that Carl was coming, Clay had already prepared the boat. After all, Lord Carl definitely wanted to experience a safe route. That's good. Let's set off now. Carl didn't want to stay on Cake Island for too long, because he wanted to go to the Four Seas as soon as possible to complete the layout, so that he could develop steadily on Beehive Island. There will also be more time to build the Cake Island. Clay didn't say anything and immediately walked to the port. Carl also fell from the air to the ground. Bryn, please tidy up this ship immediately. We will sail it out to sea soon. Don't worry, we've already prepared it. Bryn from the giant whale tribe saw Lord Carl approaching and immediately saluted Lord Carl. The salute posture of Chinese soldiers. This is what Carl taught Clay a long time ago. All his forces use this salute posture. You must fulfill Lord Carl's instructions well. I will go to sea with Lord Carl first this time. I will leave you a phone number. If you have any questions, please contact me in time. Clay first pulled Bryn aside and whispered to him. Don't worry, I will definitely give you a surprise next time you come. Bryn said, beating his chest. Okay, then I'll leave first. Clay patted Bryn on the shoulder and walked onto the ship. This time, he was followed by more than a dozen Murlocs who went out to sea. Let's go to sea and rush to Beehive Island as quickly as possible. After issuing the order, Carl walked towards the cabin. After all, the scenes on the sea were the same, so it was better to go back to the cabin and have a good rest. Set sail. After Clay saw Lord Carl walking into the cabin, he immediately ordered the fishmen to start sailing in the direction of the hive. Chapter 64. The layout begins watching the fish people follow a safe and secret road, twisting and turning, and quickly come out of the sea of cakes. Carl first stood up from his chair with an excited expression, and then looked at Clay with a solemn expression. Is this route always like this? The fishman was indeed a fishman, he found a safe route so quickly. Yes, Lord Carl. After these days of news reporting, there is currently no change in this route. I just don't know the specific cycle time. It may require longer-term observation. That's good. If there is any new situation, please explain it to me in time. Carl grinned. Since this route has been proven to be safe, the children and some things that are inconvenient to be exposed can be sent to Cake Island. You should know about unsolicited ships. Carl sat back, lying lazily on the chair and squinting like Clay. Please don't worry, Lord Carl. Clay's eyes flashed. He certainly knew what Lord Carl meant. He had already arranged this matter. After all, in this sea area full of undercurrents and reefs, the fishmen are at home in it. Without their consent, it is impossible for any ship to pass through this sea area. This safe route has already been patrolled by Murlocs on the seabed. If there are unsolicited ships on it, they will not ask and will pierce them as soon as possible. After Carl and his party came out of the desert sea, they immediately arrived at Lure Island and found Yoel and others at the port. After a brief rendezvous, the two ships set out to sea together. Then came the long journey, and the return journey was a bit boring. But fortunately, some of the entertainment artifacts invented by Carl have spread throughout the Rocks Pirate, so everyone on the two ships will have various entertainments in the cabin when they are bored, and at the same time deepen their understanding of each other, without going too far. Strangeness. Carl kept practicing the skills brought by the old master in the training room of the cabin every day. Thunder flashed during the day, and bursts of noise could be heard at night. But the sailing time is always short, and in the blink of an eye, 7 days have passed. After handing over the matter to Linlin, it's time for me to go out. I'll finish it early and feel at ease in the morning. Carl's eyes were filled with anticipation. He looked at the Beehive Island not far away. He knew that the sooner he could travel to complete the layout, the more free time he would have to prepare for the Battle of the Valley of the Gods. After all, there were many things in the Valley of the Gods. There are a lot of good things, and he won't let them go. The things inside will make his power a big step forward. Clay, take them down first to rest. Please don't worry, Lord Carl. After Carl first told Clay the matter, he walked toward Charlotte Linlin's station alone. He believed that Clay could handle these problems. Clay first ordered everyone to park the boat, and then led the fishermen, Joel and others to their station on Beehive Island with the specialties of Cake Island. Carl looked at the current Beehive Island along the way and found that a town had been rebuilt at the port of Beehive Island that he had not seen for more than 10 days. This town was built based on the port. There used to be a town, but it was a little far away from the port. Now a new small town has been built, which just connects the two towns to form one big town. The town was prosperous and prosperous. What made him most curious was that there were several pirates of different shapes playing mahjong around the roadside. The sound of playing cards could be faintly heard in the room further away. I didn't expect that this culture would spread very quickly. This can be considered a different kind of cultural invasion. Carl smiled when he saw such a scene, and then walked quickly through the streets and walked into the Beehive Island. There are no changes inside Beehive Island. After all, this is the residence of each division captain, and no one dares to build here at will. Dad. As soon as he reached Charlotte Linland's station, a childish voice stopped him. Looking into the woods nearby, Compert and several children were running towards him. Compert's little face was filled with a smile, and he ran over and jumped, and he quickly reached out to catch her. I haven't seen you for a long time. Come and meet me. He kissed Compert's little cheek. Dad's beard is so prickly, so annoying. Compert stretched out her little hand and pushed away Carl's bearded face, with a look of disgust on her face, and began to twist her whole body, trying to get off Carl's arms. They have also become accustomed to Carl during this time. It's fragrant and fragrant, go ahead and play. Then Carl put Compert on the ground and let them play and watch them play. Thinking that my child will be born soon, I can experience the feeling of being a father in advance. Carl, you're back. Charlotte Linland walked out of it with a face of joy. After all, they had not seen each other for more than 10 days. Although they used the phone bug to communicate every day, you know what a couple is in love. After Carl saw Linland coming out, he hurriedly greeted him. Well, let's go in and talk. Carl brought Charlotte Linland into the house, talked to her about the situation of the Cake Island in detail, and placed 17 pieces of devil fruit from the dessert series on Charlotte Linland. These devil fruit still need to be carefully identified. I will leave these devil fruit to you for distribution. Carl looked proud and looked at Charlotte Linland. After all, he couldn't treat one favorably and treat the other as a gift from him to Perisparrow and the others. Where did you get so much devil fruit? As expected, Charlotte Linland was shocked and couldn't stop the joy on her face. After all, there were too many devil fruits. She had never seen so many devil fruits since she went to sea. This is what was discovered in the Desert Sea area. We haven't even finished exploring yet. Maybe there will be more devil fruit waiting to be discovered. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Charlotte Linland smiled with satisfaction. She only developed a part of it and found so many devil fruits. What if it was fully developed? Linland, you need to pay attention to the development of the Cake Island later. I am going to sow some seeds all over the world. Carl wants to leave everything at hand to Charlotte Linland. Well, don't worry, Carl. I am looking forward. Charlotte Linland was not only secretly happy when she thought that Carl had captured the dessert area so quickly, but she knew that this was her man, so of course the more capable the better. Clay is on this island. I brought him back. If you have anything to do in the future, you can directly order him. Oh, that fishman. Also, guess who is building the Desert Sea area? Carl paused, wanting to tease Charlotte Linland. Charlotte Linland held her head with her right hand and fell into deep thought. She really had not thought about this problem. After all, there were dozens of islands in the Cake Sea, and it was impossible for Carl to develop them alone. It's not a fishman, is it? Charlotte Linland thought about what Carl just said about asking her to order the fishman Clay. I didn't expect that. I didn't scare you. You guessed it right. Carl showed a look of helplessness. He didn't expect Charlotte Linland to guess it casually. But it's a total of 500,000 murlocs. Carl's expression instantly became exaggerated, revealing a slightly lewd smile, as if he wanted to shock Charlotte Linland in this way. But fortunately, his goal was achieved. Charlotte Linland's eyes widened. She only guessed that it was a murloc, but she didn't expect that there were as many as 500,000. You must know that none of the members of Rock's Pirate had 500,000. Well, you're quite capable, Carl. Charlotte Linland laughed happily. Her dream has always been to form a utopia of all nations, so that all races in the world can live stably in one country. Carl actually took the lead to help her and brought the fishmen, which had to be good news for her. But time always slips away inadvertently. After communicating with Charlotte Linland, he went to Rox immediately and told him about his idea of going overseas. If it's a short time, it doesn't matter. If you go out to sea for a long time, you must get permission from Rox. Rox didn't say anything. After all, it was already in a stable state in the second half, so it didn't stop Carl from going to sea. It was because he knew the current situation that Carl made this request to Rox. Gu la la la. Wish you a safe journey. After Carl separated from Rox, he found Edward Newgate, and he only told Linlin and Rox about his going to sea. He really doesn't like the character of Golden Lion Shiki, and John Ochaku and others are die-hard fans of Rox and belong to the staunch Guardian group. Newgate and the others are different. They joined the Rox pirate because of the threat of force from Rox, so they are not the same people as John. This leads to the fact that there are now two factions in Rox pirate, the Guardian faction and the Newcomer faction. After saying a simple farewell to Edward, I spent a wonderful night with Linlin. In the early morning, I explained the next thing to Clay, Long Yi, Long and others, and then went to sea directly with the White Tiger and the Beast. Although we travel all over the world to arrange arrangements, important matters will still be communicated through the phone bug. I'm coming from all over the world. Chapter 65, East Blue, Logue Town. East Blue, Logue Town. Oh, it's finally here. Carl looked at Logue Town in the distance and stretched. He used the golden light spell on the sea to drive at full speed toward East Blue for more than 10 days. The scene he saw every day was blue sky and white clouds, and the endless sea. To be honest, if he hadn't had a good attitude, he would have found an island to vent his frustration. Also, when passing the calm belt, the sea kings under the sea discovered him and came out of the water to attack him. He didn't want to cause trouble, so he shocked it by releasing Conqueror's Haki, and then successfully passed through the calm belt. Wow! Look at that person. So high. When he parked the boat at the port, passers-by on the port exclaimed to him. Ah! Tiger! A passerby pointed at Bai Hu with a frightened expression and said. Then it attracted a lot of people's attention, and the scene was quiet for a second. Whoosh! In the next second, everyone in the port started running, as if pressing the fast-forward button, and in the blink of an eye, everyone in the port was gone. Because the White Tiger in the cabin just stood up, stretched, and walked down step by step facing them. Before he came, he was afraid that his face would be discovered by Marine, but fortunately, thanks to the lottery in the past 2 months, he got the bone-shrinking skills and disguise skills among bad people, suppressing his height to just over 3 meters, and at the same time changed his body shape. His face now looks like that of an adult in his 30s or 40s. Look, you scared everyone away, he said somewhat complainingly. Ouch! The White Tiger roared softly. It didn't expect people on the road to see it run so fast. Is it so scary? That's right, after all, in the New World, with its size, it might be meat on the pirate's table in more cases. Okay, let me first go see Roger's execution platform in future generations. He actually taught Bai Hu the bone-shrinking technique. Perhaps because of the difference in race, Bai Hu could only shrink his body to 5 meters, which was already his upper limit. They came to the square, and the people around them stayed tens of meters away from them for fear of being bitten by the White Tiger. This was the most crowded place in Logue Town, and it was also the location of the execution platform where Roger was later executed. I never thought I could witness this moment in history. Although this day has not come yet, I am looking forward to it. Although Carl wanted to complete the main mission by changing the world line, the profit of the original plot was his real wealth. He will drastically change the original direction of the pirate world without affecting the original plot as much as possible. In this way, he can have more of God's perspective for planning. He wants to sow the seeds of hope in the world, because he just wants to use Luffy's power to defeat IM, but that doesn't mean he wants to be with Luffy. After all, if the world after overthrowing IM does not have a suitable direction, sooner or later it will still be returned to its original appearance. He first came to a tavern, and he, Bai Hu, was lying at the door of the tavern. He wanted to come in and get some news, not to scare the people present away, so he could only let Bai Hu lie down at the door for a while. Did you hear that? What did you hear? It seems like the new world is now ruled by Rox Pirate. Real or false? Where did you get the news? Carl entered the door and just ordered a glass of rum on the bar when he heard a voice not far away. My uncle's relative's aunt's second son is the captain of naval headquarters. Can this be false, real or false? Tell me in detail. The leading middle-aged man took a sip of rum and spoke to everyone in detail. It turns out that since Carl left the Rocks Pirate, most of the islands in the New World have been planted with pirate flags by the Rocks Pirate. Even forced by Rock's intimidation, there were only 2 marine bases left at the Fishmen Island outpost, guarded by Garp and Sengoku respectively. Carl shook his head slightly. This was not what he wanted to hear. Although he learned that there were 2 marine places in New World, he had no time to care about it now. I don't care how I look at you. That's right. After all, things in New World are far away from us. The tavern owner looked at Carl shaking his head in that direction, and said to Carl while wiping the wine glass. You don't look like someone from East Blue. The owner of the tavern could tell at a glance that Carl was not from East Blue. His clothes, his height, and his imposing manner all showed that he was not from East Blue. Looking at the white tiger outside the window, he immediately made some guesses. Yes, I just came back from Grand Line. Do you have anything new here? Carl did not go into details. He wanted to form a force, but it was not easy to choose a spokesperson. After all, this plan might last for decades. He had to find someone who was very capable and willing to do things for him. He even had to consider countermeasures if someone betrays you. There's really one thing. Let me tell you. The tavern owner put the wine glass on the bar, leaned over and sat down, looking at Carl and said. There is a man in East Blue. It turns out that there was a man named John in East Blue. He formed a pirate hunter guild a few years ago to hunt pirates and bring the pirates' identity certificates to the Marine branch in exchange for money. Although there were many people at that time, they joined one after another, but due to their poor overall strength, they were hunted by pirates. The identities of hunter and prey seemed to be swapped overnight. In the past few years, pirates and pirate hunters can be seen fighting from time to time on the sea. But just 2 days ago, John and his 10-year-old son Jodia were betrayed by his men and came to Logue Town. Recently, pirates have been landing in Logue Town, looking for the whereabouts of the 2 of them. If you are interested in this matter, you can go find out about it. After the tavern owner finished introducing the incident, he stood up and continued his work of wiping the wine glasses. Oh, you know my purpose. Carl was a little confused. He didn't expect this ordinary boss to recognize his intention immediately. The tavern owner said softly without raising his head. I've seen most of the people who come to the tavern. There are all kinds of people. I've also met a lot of people like you, not uncommon. You look like a brat. It's just that he likes to hear about New World things, but you, on the contrary, are not interested in New World things. After Carl listened to his words and thought about it carefully, he immediately remembered an incident. In the original work, Roger appeared in a tavern in Logue Town. It can't be here. Is that person Roger? Carl asked curiously. Oh, you know him? The tavern owner showed a little surprise. He didn't expect Carl to know Roger. Sure enough, it is really Roger, the Pirate King. I really hope to fight him one day. I heard that he is a new pirate. Yes, the latest newspaper is that Roger and the others made a big fuss in the Sabodi archipelago and went to the New World. Has Roger arrived in the New World at this time? I had a chance to meet him for a while. As for bounty hunters, that's a better idea too. Anyway, thank you boss. Carl raised his glass to the boss, put some Baileys on the base of the glass, then stood up and walked out. I hope you don't have any ill intentions when you come. After the tavern owner saw Carl walking out, he wiped the cold sweat on his forehead that was not there. He had seen the huge white tiger when Carl came and had already guessed Carl's identity. The tavern owner has another identity, that is, he is one of Shaki's liaisons. Although Carl went through disguise, but with such a height, and a white tiger following him in front of him, his characteristics are much clearer. Such a unique combination rarely existed, not to mention that they learned that Carl was not currently on Beehive Island. He acted very calmly, but he was still extremely scared in his heart. After all, this was Carl, the captain of the 6th Division of Rock's Pirate, the top pirate in the New World. Let's go, White Tiger. Ouch. Okay, I know you're hungry. While walking alone with the white tiger, I was able to have some simple communication with it. Oh, it looks like you have to wait a moment. I found something interesting. Let's go. Carl rode the white tiger and flew towards the direction perceived by observation Haki. When pedestrians along the way saw this man and the tiger, they all showed scared expressions and gave way to them. Chapter 66. John on a coast on the right side of Logue Town. Dozens of pirates surrounded John here. His green robe had already been dyed dark red, with knife wounds all over his body, and his right hand protected Joshua. John, you can't run away. When you formed that, Lao Shizi pirate hunter, your mission was already determined. A pirate leader looked at John fiercely. The pirate hunter heard that he was targeting pirates. How could he let him run smoothly? That's your son next to you, right? Today is the day to eradicate the root cause. Look how you run. Stop talking nonsense and come on. John panted and looked at the people in front of him. His current physical strength was severely lost, which caused his tone to tremble, but he still spoke clearly. Joshua, run behind you for a moment. No matter what sound you hear, don't look back. Did you hear that clearly? John lowered his head and said to Joshua, who was in tears. John has already thought about opening a way out for Joshua. He will try his best to drag the pirate in front of him and let Joshua slip away from the sea. Joshua didn't speak, but his face tightened, he gritted his teeth, held back his tears, and nodded solemnly. He can't hold on much longer, let's go together. Today is the time for the pirate hunters to disband. Superior. With an order, the pirates present picked up their machetes and rushed towards John. Run. John threw Joshua towards the shore behind him with one hand, and he himself rushed towards the pirates. Ouch! Just when several people were about to engage in hand-to-hand combat, the white tiger jumped tens of meters high and landed in the center of the battle. What's the situation? A passerby, a small boss, shouted at Carl on the white tiger. I advise you not to mind your own business. Our Captain Wicket is well known in East Blue. If you don't want to get into trouble, leave now. Yes, those who know better should get out of the way. The other pirates quickly shouted in response. In fact, they were a little timid. After all, the white tiger now reaches 10 meters in length, and the fear it brings to people is not ordinary. Bai Hu only uses bone-shrinking kung fu in crowded places to avoid causing panic among the crowd or even exposing his true identity. But naturally he would not feel wronged in a deserted place. Bai Hu also didn't like the bone-shrinking kung fu. He felt that it was very awkward for his body, so he removed the effect of the bone-shrinking kung fu early. Is your name John? Carl just glanced at them lightly, and then looked at the middle-aged man covered in blood. Sir, I am John, may I ask? That'll be easy. White tiger. Carl patted the white tiger, then jumped off him and walked towards John. After feeling Carl jump off its body, it opened its mouth and looked at the group of pirates. Ouch! Shoot! Ah, save me! I wonder what's wrong with this, sir. John was stunned as he watched the white tiger behind him chasing dozens of pirates around. He didn't expect that someone would save him. As for me, I want to accomplish something, but I don't have the right person on hand. Carl first used a golden light spell to condense a golden throne. I heard your story, so I wanted to test you. Carl sat on it, leaning on the armrest with his elbows, holding his head with his right hand, tilting his head, looking at John with sharp eyes. Gudong. Johann swallowed. He was shocked by Carl's aura, but from the corner of his eye, he saw his son Joshua hiding on the rocks nearby, turning to look at Carl. What do you need me to do? John's eyes gradually became firm. No matter what, the only way to survive and reunite with his son was to agree. At this time, he had no other choice. Ouch! At this moment, the white tiger jumped from a distance next to Carl's throne. Go wash up, are you dirty? Carl saw the blood on the corners of the white tiger's mouth and claws, and the corners of his mouth twitched a little. He slapped it with his left hand and rolled his eyes at it with disgust. Ouch! When the white tiger saw Carl's expression of disgust, he lowered his head and walked towards the coast with some grievances. As he walked, he turned his head to look at Carl from time to time, like a child who had been wronged. I only have one test. Go get Wicket's head. Carl ignored Bai Hu's look. He wanted to see John's reaction. During his careful observation, the corners of John's mouth were indeed twitching slightly, and he seemed to be a little embarrassed, but in an instant he found that John's eyes became firm. Of course, I won't wait for you here. This is my bug number. Call me when you're done. Since it was a test, Carl would not give him any military help. He wanted to see if John could complete it alone. This is for you. Although it is a test, I will not let you die in vain. Carl threw 1/10 of the rejuvenation pill to John. After Carl's experiment, He only needed 1/10 of the rejuvenation pill to recover his physical strength quickly, let alone someone as weak as Vice Admiral. John showed some embarrassment. He looked at the Nawaner in his hand and then at Carl. In the end, he did not speak and just nodded. Don't underestimate this thing. It's called Wei Yuan Dan. Although I cut a small portion from a big one, it can help a weak person like you quickly recover his physical strength. He just briefly introduced it, because no one had personal experience with this thing, and no one knew that such a small pill could restore physical strength to its optimal state. If you successfully retrieve Wicket's head, then I will give you a more powerful elixir. On the contrary, you know the result. Remember what I said. Don't think about escaping, you won't imagine the consequences. Buzz. As Carl said, he used a trace of Conqueror's Haki, and an astonishing aura shot toward John. He only felt short of breath, and felt like someone was holding his throat. His limbs were lying on the ground, as if he was being pressed by a terrifying gravity. Let's see how you behave next. White Tiger, let's go. After Carl finished speaking, he dispersed from the Golden Throne and walked toward the town with the White Tiger. Ha, ha, ha. John looked at Carl's back, breathing heavily. The clothes on his back were already soaked with cold sweat. Father, are you okay? When Josha saw Carl leaving, he quickly ran out from the rocks and helped his father up. He had a panoramic view of everything from behind and knew that they survived because of Carl's help, but he didn't know what Carl and his father said. He only saw his father suddenly lying on the ground. But because of his timidity, he did not run over immediately. Instead, he plucked up the courage to run over after seeing Carl leave. Father is fine. I just don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. John is naturally a well-informed person, but he has never experienced the ability to overwhelm people and make them surrender with just his momentum. He only knows one thing. If he fails to complete this test, what he will face is extremely terrifying. In that aura just now, he felt the fatal danger. His life and death were out of his control, as if he was going to die in the next second. He also knew that he couldn't refuse. If he had refused, he might have died, he thought with some self-deprecation. It must be completed. Johann looked at Yodiel at his hand. He tightly grasped the clay ball with his right hand. He didn't know whether the effect of this mud pill was as that person said. He just knew that Wicket was not something he could defeat, even if he could recover his strength once. You still have to remember it for a long time. Let's go, I'll take you to have a nice meal. John wanted to entrust Josha to his friends. After this incident, he found that Josha's presence by his side would seriously affect him. So after thinking about it, it was better to leave him with a friend and pick him up after he settled down. Chapter 67. Bardo family, I wonder what surprise this seed will bring me. Let's go and meet the Bardo family for a while. The purpose of Carl coming to Logetown is to meet the Bardo family of Logetown. After all, the Bator family is now one of the mafia that rules Logetown, and it can even continue to the beginning of the original work. Although it has declined later, I still remember that in the original work, when Bartolomeo encounters trouble, he will find a person named Granny, who should be someone from his grandmother generation. As a backup force, it is barely passable. After all, Bartolomeo the Tuo family continued until the opening of the original work. After all, he didn't know how long it would take to complete his plan, so let's see if he could grow his power with his help. Who? Boy, you are not allowed to enter here. You bastard, get away quickly. Carl had just walked to the door of the Bardo family's residence. The two people at the door were dressed in suits, and their tall bodies were only a head shorter than him. After they saw the White Tiger, although they were a little scared, they did not panic immediately. Just seeing Carl going into the courtyard, he quickly stopped him. Is this the Bardo family? Carl looked at the two goalkeepers. It would be difficult to find people of such height in East Blue. What's wrong, kid? You're here to cause trouble. The big man in black clothes on the left clasped his hands and looked at Carl with a mocking expression. After knowing that this was the Bardo family, Carl didn't really want to talk to people like them anymore. Then I came right. Go quickly, this is not the place for you. The man on the right looked a little impatient and walked down the stairs quickly, trying to push Carl away. Buzz. Well, the man who walked down the stairs turned white, his body became stiff, and he fell towards Carl. Plop. Hey, what did you do to him? Boy, you're done. Our Bator family doesn't even dare to offend Marine. If you want to die, I will help you. The strong man on the left jumped down the steps angrily, waving his fists to attack Carl. Snapped. Just stop making trouble and get some sleep. The strong man looked shocked. Unexpectedly, he caught his punch easily. Boom. Carl first held his fist with his left hand, then kicked it away, and his body directly knocked open the door. Hit the target, cool. Carl showed off his big white face, gave himself a thumbs up outside the gate, and then walked inside. Who is it? Someone is here to cause trouble. Come on, someone is making trouble. Tap tap tap. After Carl stepped into the door, the white tiger lay right at the door, completely blocking the door with his huge body. At this time, the courtyard was already filled with mafia personnel. Who are you? What are you doing here? Seeing this, the Batoyan stepped out of the crowd to take a look at Carl. His expression was a little solemn. Could he be someone from other mafia groups? Or maybe the family accidentally provoked someone somewhere. The Bardo family's survival strategy is to try not to cause trouble. Their main source of business is simply collecting protection fees, because the mafia that caused trouble has been eradicated. The mafia power in East Blue is actually not as large as that in West Blue, because since Garp became the vice admiral and saw what the Celestial Dragons did, he often used the excuse of returning home to evade missions. So whether East Blue is a pirate or a mafia, the number of parties is far smaller than the other 3 sea areas. Are you the leader of the Bato family? I am you, what can I do? After Carl saw him admitting, he glanced at everyone in the hall. The next words may not be suitable for many people to listen to. Do you mind if I clear the place first? What's the meaning? As soon as the Batorian finished speaking, he found that the aura of the man in front of him had changed. In his sight, Carl's figure continued to grow taller, and he had an involuntary desire to surrender. Plop. Plop. Just as he was trying his best to resist, he saw the younger brothers present falling down one after another. What kind of power is this? What did you do to them? The Batoyan turned pale, thinking that all his men were killed by this stranger using the power of the devil fruit. Don't worry, we just cleared the area, they are still alive. But I don't know if he will be alive or not soon. Carl had a smile on his face and looked very kind. But in the eyes of the Batoyan people, Carl's smile was fatally dangerous. Then it's time to listen to my conditions. Still doing the same operation, Carl used the golden light spell to condense a golden throne and sat on it, looking down at the Batoyan people. You have to do it seriously. You don't want to know the consequences if you don't do it. At the gate of the Bator family, Carl waved his hand back and walked out with Bai Hu. Watching Carl go away, the Batoyan looked down at the few clay balls in his right hand, quickly put them into his pocket, and woke up the people on the ground one by one. After seeing his men waking up one after another and walking into the house with solemn expressions, he needed to change his strategy. I hope you won't do anything stupid. You have to trouble me to come over. Carl looked back at the Bator family not far away. Then let's experience the customs of Logue Town. You're here, right? Because he was afraid that the white tiger would cause chaos, he released the white tiger into the jungle behind Logue Town. He himself spent 2 days in Logue Town in East Blue. Bola, Bola. While Carl was chatting and laughing with a divorced young woman at the Logue Town playground, his phone bug suddenly rang. Excuse me, beautiful lady. Carl's face was slightly stiff, but he relaxed in an instant. Aha, sir, you are busy first. The young woman smiled charmingly, took out a folding fan, and walked towards the amusement park with a twist. Carl watched with a smile as the sexy young woman left. After a short separation, he didn't expect that there was someone above him, and he couldn't be the one. No, no, definitely not. Hey, if there's nothing important to disturb me, you're screwed. Carl watched the young woman go further and further away, and then his eyes gradually became sharp. I'm sorry to bother you, Mr. Carl. John first made an opening statement. He was sitting in the camp of the Wicket pirates on the Jixing Islands, holding Wicket's bloody head, and continued to talk to Carl with some anxiety. I am John, and I have removed Wicket's head. I don't know how to prove it. Hearing John's anxious voice, he couldn't help but feel startled. He didn't expect his movements to be so fast, which was a bit unexpected. Well, which island are you on now? After Carl heard the news, his first reaction was to use special means to check the situation around him. But unfortunately, he has not yet extracted a skill with this function, so he can only go there in person. At this time, he is somewhat urgent and needs a special skill that can monitor other people's surrounding environment. It's on the Jixing Islands not far from Logue Town. The direction is due east of Logue Town. Wait there for a moment, I'll be there soon. After John finished giving the address, Carl hung up the phone. Looking again at the direction where the beautiful young woman was walking, she could no longer see her. There was a smirk on Carl's face, if possible. "Mom, look at that brother's smile, it's so strange." A childish baby voice came out, and it was a little girl pointing at Carl's evil smile and talking to her mother. "Don't look, kids, don't look." Her mother didn't understand this look, so she immediately covered the child's eyes, and then the two of them left here quickly. Carl's expression was immediately drawn back and he looked at the mother and daughter who were leaving not far away. He looked a little embarrassed, scratched his head, changed direction, whistled as if nothing had happened, and walked towards the White Tiger. Chapter 68. The First Force Jixing Islands. John didn't have to wait long. An hour after Carl hung up the phone, he arrived at the island. He released observation hotkey and found John immediately. Tap tap tap. When John heard the footsteps coming from outside, he walked out with a machete in his right hand and Wicket's head in his left hand. Well done. Carl has not been in Logue Town for nothing these days. He has long known what Wicket looks like and what his members look like. After seeing Wicket's head, he clapped and admired, mainly because he didn't expect him to complete the task so quickly. "Thank you for your compliment, sir." When John saw that the person coming was the mysterious master and his pet white tiger, he immediately put down the machete in his right hand, with a look of respect on his face, and kneeled down on one knee to present his head to Carl. "Okay, you have completed my test. Next, I'll tell you what I need." Carl sat on the golden throne and looked down at him. He did not take it, but asked John to put it aside. Carl somewhat enjoyed the feeling of looking down at people. "Sir, please tell me." He did not dare to show the slightest dissatisfaction, lowered his head and raised his hands, without looking up at Carl directly. "I want you to set up a real pirate hunter guild. Of course, I will give you some help. Your task is to continuously expand it. If you encounter a problem that cannot be solved, just call me." Carl divided a great return pill into 10 parts, then took out a complete great return pill, and sent it to John on a tray formed by a golden light spell. "You temporarily serve as the president of the Pirate Hunter Guild. You eat this big one, and give the other 10 smaller ones to the people you trust most for them to eat. The big one can give you Vice Admiral level strength, and the small one can give an ordinary person direct Admiral level physical fitness." Carl looked at John's expression of disbelief when he looked up. "You can eat the big one first." John knew that if this mysterious master wanted his life, there was no need to go to such trouble. So he gritted his teeth and threw the big pill into his mouth. With the same formula, he felt the burning sensation in his body, and hurriedly ran towards the seaside before he could confess to Carl. Since he was not as strong as Clay, he stayed at the beach for a full hour. "Thank you, sir, for the reward. I will definitely not disappoint your expectations." After John came out of the sea, he felt that his whole body was full of strength. Joy spread all over his face, and he immediately knelt down to Carl. "Although you have gained power, I can take it back at any time. I hope you won't do anything stupid, otherwise." Even when Carl is extremely inflated, someone must give him a slap in the head, otherwise he will do many wrong things. "Don't worry, Mr. Carl, I will definitely do what you asked me to do." Of course John knew this was a knock on him. "I don't know your name, sir." John looked cautious. "Oh, by the way, I haven't told you who I am yet. I'm Carl, Lux D. Carl. Captain of the 6th Division of Rock's Pirate. You are the captain of Rock's Pirate." John was shocked. He never thought that this mysterious man was actually the captain of Rock's Pirate. Fortunately, he didn't have any thoughts of betrayal. Otherwise, with Lord Carl's strength, it would be effortless to find him. "Meet Lord Carl." John became more respectful. When he learned that his backer was the captain of Rock's Pirate, although he was a little shocked, overall he was more happy than afraid. In this way, his safety is guaranteed. What happens next is like this. Like this. Carl moved some systems from China and integrated them locally. The Pirate Hunter Guild is composed of a president and 2 vice presidents, and is composed of a combat department, a reconnaissance department, a logistics department, and a law enforcement department. War department. 1 minister, 2 deputy ministers, and then 3 levels: gold, silver, and bronze, which respectively correspond to hunting pirates with bounties of more than 1 billion, more than 100 million, and more than 1,000 belly. Reconnaissance department. Responsible for collecting each pirate's strength, moves, characteristics, etc., and giving a comprehensive score to each pirate. Logistics department. On the one hand, it is used to mobilize the supplies of the entire pirate hunter guild. On the other hand, it is responsible for the management of ships. The law enforcement department is relatively simple and is responsible for the overall corruption situation within the Union. The two people kept hammering out the details of the strategy on this small island. In the evening, after leaving Logue Town, Karga John started his next journey. And John immediately found his son, Jodia, from his friend, and first fed him a miniature version of the Great Return Pill. Then he hurriedly contacted the surviving pirate hunters in various places to advance towards Logue Town. He himself chose a station in Logue Town. He wanted to place the station directly in Logue Town because Logue Town gave him a chance to be reborn. In just 3 days, most of the pirate hunters had arrived in Logue Town and gathered in a manor. John looked at the hundreds of people in front of him. These people would become the first group of pirate hunters. "I want to announce something today." John stood in the middle of everyone, pressed down with his hands, and asked everyone to sit down first. With the help of an adult, we got support. Masato Jiru, Ichiro Kunote, Kaku Fujita and others came forward first. He first called up the 9 people with stronger overall strength. "The secret is on this pill, you swallow it. Is this true? How powerful can a pill be? You won't let me go in vain, will you?" Salong Masato was the first to question. In his eyes, this is just a small earth pill that has no effect. What effect can it have? The other people also looked at each other and were not the first to swallow it. "Don't worry, the secret is in this pill." John didn't care so much, but still urged everyone to take it. After all, he didn't know that this small pill could be so powerful until he swallowed it. "I'll come first. I'm not afraid of this or that." Obato was the first to stand up. He was tall, 3.5 meters tall, with broad shoulders and a round waist. He wasn't afraid of what harm a little pill could do to him. After he swallowed it, he felt the power emerging from his body spreading to his limbs. Because it was a small pill, it was not as powerful as a big pill. Although his body felt hot, it was not enough to cool down with cold water. Well, seeing Obater's reaction, the others immediately thought it was poison and glared at John. Ha 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 ha. So strong. Just when everyone was about to ask questions, Obater waved his fist on the spot. A burst of punching wind attracted everyone's attention. They knew that Obato was not so strong, so the secret was in the little pill in front of them. Everyone focused their attention on this pill. In the next second, several people turned to look at each other, and then they all swallowed it. It turns out this is power. This is really good stuff. Will John still be around in the future? Unlike other martial artists with strong brains, Masato Jilong reacted immediately. Could he get more from this pill? Because judging from this quantity, it should be possible for mass production. Of course, you can. Only by completing the tasks issued by that adult can you get the reward. John saw that they had already felt the power of the game, and then conveyed Carl's meaning to them. Soon afterwards, several people started discussing the organizational structure of the Pirate Hunters Guild. Jiru Masato and Obater served as the vice presidents of the union, while the other 7 people were known as the 7 people. Chapter 69. Kingdom of Goa. Behind Carl is the endless sea. The sun is hanging in the sky. The weather is very good today, there are no dark clouds. Where is this? No matter, let's go take a look first. Carl didn't want to go to the established island. He just wanted to experience the feeling of adventure, so he flew aimlessly in the air for a night. Looking at an island in the distance, I quickly landed on it. Carl landed on a deserted beach. White Tiger, I have to trouble you to stay here for a while. Of course, if your bone shrinking skill shrinks you even smaller, then you can come in with me. After Bai Hu heard this, he took 2 steps back with resistance on his face and shook his head violently, not wanting to feel the feeling of discomfort all over his body. He stuck out his tongue, his face full of frustration. If he had known it would not come out with him. Ha ha ha. Then I feel sorry for you to stay here. I'm leaving first. During Carl's time at sea, he gradually regained his childlike nature. Such a leisurely time was a feeling he had never experienced before. There is no need to think about going to work, no worries, just do what you want to do, and don't do what you don't want to do, and the whole person is so happy. Moreover, the Titan talent not only enhanced his physique, but also increased his lifespan to 300 years. So when he has more time later, he will spend it leisurely. Every time he thinks of this, he feels relieved. A strong sailor is working hard to move goods at the port. 15 Baileys a pound of seafish, just caught today, very fresh. Fruits are sold cheaply. Your clothes are so expensive. They are much cheaper than yours anywhere. As soon as he entered the town, he heard all kinds of hawking and bargaining sounds, and he closed his eyes gently. Just hearing the sound, I thought I was back in China again, and tears welled up in the corners of my eyes. Can I still go back to the system? He wanted to know if there was any hope for him to go back. Host can choose to return to Blue Star after completing the final mission. Well, is there an ultimate mission? Why didn't I see it? Carl's eyes widened when he heard the system's beep. Hearing the shocking news, his expression fluctuated a bit. He didn't expect that he could actually return to the ancient East. Although there is a mother at home who loves to push for marriage, it does not mean that he does not miss his hometown. What is the ultimate mission? He urgently wants to know what kind of tasks he must complete before he can return to China and return to the arms of his parents. After Host completes main mission 3, the ultimate mission will begin. I'm only on the first main quest now, and I don't even have the second one? Forget it, there is hope anyway, let's work hard for it next. Carl's face was filled with a smile. At first, he just wanted to have a place to survive in the pirate world. Later, as the system changed his mind, he wanted to change the world line so that he could live a better life. After being enlightened by the Snow Lion Admiral, he wanted to liberate the entire pirate world and let them experience the Red Trend. Now that he heard the good news that he could return to his hometown, he wanted to complete all the tasks as soon as possible so that he could return to his hometown. Speed up the pace. I can guess the ultimate mission, and the high probability is to defeat I am. Then I'm sorry. I can't wait until you go to sea, Luffy. Carl is now full of confidence. He does not believe that with the help of the Guoman system, he cannot overthrow I am. Uncle, may I ask where this place is? After Carl cleared his thoughts, he found an old man selling fruit on the side of the road. Well, young man. This is the kingdom of Goa. Is this your first time here? The old man looked kind. After all, there were many people coming to Goa Kingdom for the first time. Ha ha ha, yes, old man. This is my first time coming to this place, so I would like to ask, have you heard of Windmill Village? Carl didn't expect that he would actually come to the kingdom of Goa, and he immediately became interested in the Windmill Village. He wanted to take a look at the place where Luffy lived, and it could be regarded as a review of the classics. Buy some of my fruit and I'll tell you. Carl looked at the old man's unfazed expression and bought some apples. Click. Master, can you do it this time? Carl picked up an apple, ate it, and threw some gold coins on the fruit stand. The old man immediately smiled, put the gold coins away, and pointed in a direction and said to him, "The Windmill Village is in the Kingdom of Goa, near the terminal, it should be on that side." "Oh, really? Thank you, old man." Carl turned his head and looked at the direction the old man was pointing, and made a note of it in his mind. Then I said goodbye to the old man and started wandering around in the towns near the port. It's all the same, there's not much to see. Okay, let's go to the terminal and take a look first. Carl discovered that the towns in the pirate world are actually quite similar. If you visit more, you will find many similarities. If you want to experience adventure, you may have to go to some special islands, such as Machine Island, Sky Island and the like. This is mine. Bah, this is not yours. Kid, put your things down for me. You know the consequences otherwise. Carl stood on a big tree and watched several adults bullying a teenage child at the terminal. In this case, don't blame the brothers for being rude. Call me. The leading adult kicked the young man to the ground first, and then several people beat him one after another. But no matter how many people beat him arbitrarily, the boy still held the iron box in his arms close to his chest. You are also a loser. Your father doesn't want you anymore. What's the use of guarding a broken box? You might as well give it to me. The leading adult pulled the boy up by his hair. The boy didn't speak. He shrunk into a circle and hugged the last gift his mother left him. Go. Just when the adults reached out to snatch the iron box from him. Ouch! There's a tiger, run! Run! Several people immediately rolled and crawled, scrambling to run away. The leading adult threw the boy to the ground and ran at the front of the crowd. You! Don't come over. I don't taste good at all, but it stinks. The young man didn't even have the strength to stand up now, watching the white tiger in the distance walking towards him step by step. His face was pale and his body was trembling a little, and he crawled towards the opposite place, trying to escape from here. Although he knew that this might be in vain, it could bring him the least comfort. May I have your name? The boy's crawling posture paused momentarily. He thought it was Bai Hu talking to him, and turned to look in the direction of the sound. The huge tiger was lying on the ground and was being touched by a strange man. Seeing this scene, he instantly breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that it was the man in front of him who saved him. He sat up, hugged the box tightly in his chest, and whispered, "My name is Sparrow, Lake Sparrow." After he finished speaking, as his spirit relaxed, he fainted instantly and fell into a state of shock. Sparrow. What a coincidence, I also know a Captain Sparrow. But why do you have to take care of a child again? Forget it. Let's save it. In fact, after learning that he had the opportunity to return to Blue Star, he felt extremely relaxed. He also knew that he could not bring some of the ideas of the pirate world to Blue Star, so he had to be in a moderate state. If he is accustomed to indifference in the pirate world and regards human life as nothing, if he does something wrong when he returns to Blue Star, won't he regret it for the rest of his life? Chapter 70. Lex Sparrow. In the evening, Carl built a wooden house with trees by the river. He was sitting at the door grilling a huge tuna. Bai Hu lay on the side, smelling the smell of grilled fish, and drooled all over the floor. This is where's my box? In the evening, when Lex Sparrow woke up, the first thing he wanted to do was find the box his mother left for him. Carl smiled bitterly when he heard the sound coming from inside, and then asked him to look at the table not far away. Don't worry, kid, the box is right next to it. Carl sighed helplessly. He had already left the job of taking care of children, but he did not expect to return to his old job after coming to East Blue. However, he could not lose this innocence, but his progress had to be accelerated. Where is your father? Why doesn't he care about you? Lex Sparrow saw the box on the table, first held it in his arms, and then looked at the newly built wooden house. Then after hearing Carl's question, he slowly sat on the bed. His mother comes from a small aristocratic family. Because of his sweet appearance, he was loved by his father. But this angered his stepmother, who used means to kill his mother and then drove him out of the house. Because of his mother's life and death, his father did not like him. He was kicked out of the house by his stepmother in the past 2 days. Even after being kicked out, his stepmother was not willing to let him go like this. Instead, she found different people to humiliate him every day. This could explain why those people didn't kill him while he was holding a very precious box. Sparrow, let me teach you a lesson. Carl turned from the door to look at him. Tell him with a serious face. Real power often does not belong to those who are born with extraordinary strength, agility, and intelligence. No, it only belongs to those who do whatever it takes to achieve their goals. Carl looked at Sparrow's struggling face and continued. I opened your mother's box for you. There is a devil fruit inside. Eat it and you'll have revenge. Or do you just want to live like this forever and don't want to avenge your mother? Carl's words were full of temptation. He was tempting the child, arousing blood and anger in his heart. In fact, there are only some jewelry in this box. He put the devil fruit in it, which is a paramecia rain fruit. After hearing what Carl said, Sparrow slowly opened the box. I saw a fruit with a mysterious pattern inside. He looked a little hesitant, but seemed to have made a decision. Just pick up the fruit and take a big bite. Vomit. It will have no effect if you spit it out. When Sparrow heard this, he quickly covered his mouth and painful tears flowed from his eyes. After swallowing this piece, his expression became fierce. Thinking of the recent suffering, he quickly swallowed the devil fruit completely in several big mouthfuls. Experience the power of this fruit, and it will be your greatest helper in the future. Carl has experienced all kinds of things when he was at Blue Star. In his opinion, if the paramecia devil fruit in the One Piece world is developed to the end, It will be a rule-level ability. The difference lies in how well it is used. In his opinion, if Paramecia Devil Fruit in the One Piece world develops into a rule-level ability in the end, the difference lies in how well it is performed. After all, there is only the weakest user, and there is no such thing as the trashiest devil fruit. This is a theorem. No, I'll give you one, eat it. Carl threw the 1/10 Shaolin Great Return pill towards Sparrow. Only power that is completely under your control is power. If you want revenge, I'll give you a chance. Sparrow heard Carl's words and stuffed the pills into his mouth. Thank you, sir. Please let me handle some personal matters. I would like to always be by your side from now on. Sparrow felt the power emerging from him. Knowing that this was the opportunity given to him by Carl, he quickly knelt down on one knee, raised his hand to Carl and said, "Your time is limited. I hope to see you before sunrise tomorrow." "Please don't worry, Lord Carl." Carl looked at Sparrow's retreating figure. This could be regarded as a test he had set for him. See if his heart is ruthless enough. His subordinates don't need indecisive people. Bai Hu, go and take a closer look. As long as he doesn't die, don't worry about anything else. Ouch. White Tiger nodded in agreement and followed Sparrow with brisk steps. I wonder what this seed will grow into. Boom. Ah. Boom. Sparrow arrived at his previous home and saw two servants at the door knocking him directly into the house. Master Lake, Lady Tana. After one of the servants was knocked to the ground, he quickly got up and ran towards the inner room. You traitor. What do you want to do? Lekodis ran out when he heard the noise outside and saw Lex Sparrow standing at the gate, arms folded, looking at them with contempt. You don't deserve to be my father. I came today to retrieve my mother's belongings. Kill this bitch at the same time. Sparrow saw Lady Tana coming out, pointing her right hand at her, and roared at her. HMPH, I think you are a little arrogant. I'll leave the butler to you. Hades looked at the butler beside him. He knew the strength of this butler. Ordinary pirates were no match for him, let alone a 13-year-old child. Understood, sir. Young master, isn't it good to live outside? Why do you have to come back? To make the master angry. A trace of cruelty gradually appeared on Carrie's face. You must know that he had been a pirate before. The butler's name is Carrie. I heard that he was rescued by Lake Hortus on his way back to East Blue after failing to challenge the New World, so he became a butler in the Lake family. Tread. Butler Cree took the lead and kicked the ground hard with his left foot, rushing towards Sparrow. Although Sparrow doesn't know any martial arts, his naked eyes can now keep up with Clay's speed. Snapped. Sparrow stretched out his right fist, and the two fists collided hard. How do you have so much strength? Carrie looked at Sparrow with a horrified look. He hadn't seen him for just a few days. Why did Sparrow have such a powerful power? Could it be that he ate devil fruit? Why can't such good things happen to him? Carrie's face immediately turned fierce. Crack. He drew out the dagger from his waist with his left hand and drew a semicircle from left to right, aiming for Sparrow's throat. Shua. Tick-tock. Sparrow stretched out his left hand and held the attacking short sword above his right hand. His left hand was scratched and a large amount of blood spilled out. Sparrow felt the pain coming from his left hand and stretched out his right foot to kick Carrie away. Boom. Boom. Carrie's figure instantly flew upside down to the inside of the house. You really don't want to commit matricide, do you? Laycode saw that the butler Carrie could not stop him, although he was a little confused and didn't know what happened to Sparrow. But he would never allow Sparrow to kill Tana Jones. HMPH, why didn't you come out when she killed my mother? Why didn't you stand up when she kicked me out of the house? All good people let you do it. Sparrow heard his father say this and felt unworthy of his mother for a moment. Sparrow walked towards Tana Jones holding the short sword. No, don't kill me. That bitch deserves to die. It was she who stole my love. In the eyes of Tana Jones, it was Sparrow's mother who seduced Hades, causing Hades to focus on her mother and neglect her. She collapsed on the ground with a look of horror on her face, watching Sparrow holding the short sword and approaching her step by step. The fear in her heart instantly took over her entire heart. But no matter what, you still killed my mother. As a son, I will avenge my mother no matter what. Although Sparrow had some reluctance on his face, remembering his deceased mother, he still placed the short sword on Jones' neck. Don't kill him, he is your stepmother after all. Your mother's things are all in the room. I haven't moved them yet. Go and take them away. Hodith knelt in front of him with tears streaming down his face, holding the short sword in both hands. Yes, I want to take my mother away. Sparrow's mind immediately flashed back to the fun times he had spent with his mother. Peeved, Sparrow looked at Hodith's right hand with a look of disbelief. Hodith's ferocious right hand held a short sword, and the short sword passed right through Sparrow's body. Sparrow punched Hodith to the ground with a fierce punch. Well, Sparrow felt dizzy. He covered the stabbed place with his left hand and took 2 or 3 steps back. Feeling the constant loss of blood from his body, he slowly raised his right hand, which was filled with blood. When he looked up again, his eyes turned red and it started to rain lightly. Although his strength has reached the rear admiral level, penetrating injuries to his body are still very fatal to him. Tear it apart. He directly tore his clothes to pieces and surrounded the wound fiercely. Blood was still flowing out, and the amount of blood had become very small. It hurts. After tying the clothes into a knot, he growled. Look at the 2 people hugging each other. If you stab me, the relationship between our father and son will be severed. I will kill her today, no one can save her. He staggered over to Tana. If you kill her, kill me too. Don't kill me, don't kill me. Tana said, a little crazy with her hair shawl. I want you to live in pain. Sparrow stabbed Tana in the throat with a knife, and blood spurted out along the blade. Hodith saw Tana in this state, hugged her body and cried loudly. Dang Kang! Sparrow threw the short sword on the ground and walked towards his mother's room step by step. There was nothing to pack in his mother's room. Tana had already packed up his mother's things and was planning to throw them out today. From today on, we will have no contact with you. Sparrow did not kill his father, but carried his mother's belongings and walked out of the manor step by step. All that was left was Hodith in the manor, with a face full of regret. Chapter 71. New subordinates. Ouch, ouch. Bai Hu came back and told Carl as soon as he saw the end of the matter. The general situation was understood through Bai Hu, but he found that Sparrow was not walking this way, but was walking to the other side. It seemed that he knew that he might not survive, so he found a place to spend the rest of his life. Carl stood up immediately. That's not possible. I gave him the devil fruit and the Shaolin Great Return pill, and he died. Wasn't this investment in vain? Let's go. Take me there. Carl lightly jumped onto the white tiger's back, and the white tiger immediately ran towards Sparrow's direction. In a forest on the right side of the manor, Sparrow dug a hole deep in the woods and placed his mother's belongings in it. When Carl arrived, he had already buried the pit. He did not leave a monument on the mound, fearing that someone would destroy his mother's resting place. What, have all the things at home been taken care of? Sparrow heard the sound and turned his head and looked back to find that it was the mysterious young man who helped him. I'm sorry, sir, I would like to be by your side if possible, but I think I may not be able to help you. Sparrow's face was bloodless, his clothes were completely soaked in blood, and his breath was weak. Don't worry, you won't die. Just remember what you said. He started to walk closer and found that Sparrow had fallen into a coma. He calmly picked out a small fragment of the Wei Yuan pill from his hand. It's a bit of a waste to feed you, do you know? Although Carl said this, he still fed the fragments to him. He was then taken to the cabin previously built at the terminal. It's still a bit early. The purpose of Carl coming to East Blue is actually to get in touch with the characters related to the original work, so as to lay out secret moves one by one. Since he can't put any effort into this aspect, let's form a few forces to help him collect information, and he will come over when the main personnel come out. East Blue already has a mafia and a pirate hunter guild. Let's see how they develop in the future. I'm not dead. Thank you, sir. The next morning, the first thing Sparrow did when he woke up from bed was to find that he was still alive. Then he quickly expressed his gratitude to Carl. Just call me Carl from now on. Didn't you say you would always be by my side? Get up, it's time for us to leave. Seeing that he looked good, Carl knew that even a small fragment of the Wei Yuan Dan could not be underestimated. Okay, Lord Carl. Now that we know it, it will still be some time before the characters related to the original plot appear. He didn't waste any more time in Sahai. Taking Sparrow with him, he first walked around East Blue and met Davis, a gunman who was famous in East Blue. Later, he helped the Bardo family eradicate several underground mafia in East Blue and spread the mafia power to the whole East Blue. Although the Bardo family is still a little weak now, he has almost eliminated the entire underground mafia in East Blue. If the Bardo family wants to develop, they should not encounter too much trouble. He happened to take advantage of this time to recruit a few loyal men, and met Thompson, a navigator on a merchant ship, who wanted to go to the Grand Line. Because there were not many powerful pirates in East Blue at that time, and even the underground mafia had been almost wiped out by Carl, Thompson's desire to go to the Grand Line was even more out of reach. After Carl's solicitation, he agreed directly without too much doubt. Then, under the shocked eyes of several people, we flew directly over the comm belt and arrived at South Blue. In South Blue, he also formed a mafia force and a killer organization Dragnet. Most of the members of the killer organization were the people he rescued on the slave ship of South Blue. At the same time, there was a lovely ship doctor named Jennifer, joined his team. When he was frantically sniping at the slave ship, the entire South Blue slave ship was in panic. Even Carl had been hunted by Marine many times. But if he takes action, his strength will be exposed, which will attract the attention of naval headquarters, so he just runs away and never fights with the Marine branch people. Each force left behind one complete great return pill and 10 small return pills. The big return pill was evenly divided into 10 parts. Come to West Blue. He formed a Tungtian Chamber of Commerce, which was a metaphor for being financially powerful. After he lost a lot of money, he purchased an illustrated book of herbal medicine from the system, as well as the formulas for steelmaking, cement and other basic building materials, and gave them to the Tungtian Chamber of Commerce. It also supports a mafia force. Coincidentally, the name of this mafia family is Capone. Yes, it is the family of Capone Bead, one of the 11 supernovas at the beginning of the original work. At the same time, the system determines that the Capone family will be included in the family. His subordinates influenced the direction of the branch line of the pirate world and rewarded him with 2,000 points. Although it was not much, it was a blood gain at least. North Blue. He strongly gathered several forces and formed an arms sales team, Tungbao Arsenal, and asked him to contact the Tungtian Chamber of Commerce. It was the same formula and supported a local mafia force, but North Blue had too many mafia forces, so he didn't have time to finish cleaning up, but he just didn't know if the mafia forces in North Blue could hold on. Each force has a different set of boxing techniques, which can not only increase their strength, but also prevent people from mistakenly thinking that they are the same school and the same organization. During his travels, he recruited a crew and gave them the weapon and observation hockey. He also individually guided the use and development direction of Sparrow's rainfruit. Tips: add gravity to each raindrop, increase speed, form defensive raincloth, etc. Attributes: increase the corrosion attribute. When passing through Frevens, a new idea was inspired. You can add some heavy metal uranium or plutonium to the raindrops. Unfortunately, a complete physical object was not found, but this is also a development direction. He will do it later. Let Sparrow focus on this information. In the blink of an eye, 8 months have passed, because he has recruited some capable crew members. Except for Sparrow, who has not yet realized the armament hockey. Several others have already realized the armament color and the wisdom color. The next step is to increase their proficiency. Unfortunately, their strength cannot be fully used all over the world, because this will attract the pursuit of naval headquarters, so they have no place to practice. And just at this time, Charlotte Linlin called him and said that his child would be born in less than a month. So he hurriedly took care of North Blue's affairs, and then hurriedly recruited 9 crew members and rushed to the Beehive Island in the New World. He didn't want to miss the important moment of the birth of his child. A huge ship slowly sailed towards Upside Down Mountain. The captain has arrived at Upside Down Mountain. The person who spoke was a little giant 4 meters away. His name was Noti, known as the Little Titan. He was a strong man he met on an uninhabited island in West Blue. It was said that he ate too much and was killed. People from his hometown were driven out and lived on this island for a while. Noti didn't eat devil fruit, but his strange power was not inferior to the ordinary vice admiral at all. Is this Upside Down Mountain? It's really spectacular. The speaker was Hunter from North Blue. He was now the helmsman of the ship. He had never seen the majesty of Upside Down Mountain. Ha, Bumpkin. Swordsman Brown followed his master to the first half of New World, so he watched Upside Down Mountain more than once. But since boarding the ship, he and Hunter have been at odds with each other. The two of them can't get enough of each other, and they will quarrel with each other over the smallest things. "Who are you talking about?" Hunter shouted angrily at Brown with his eyes widened. "I'll blame whoever has such a big reaction. You are an old hat." Looking at Brown with some contempt, Hunter immediately became angry, but he just snorted coldly. Now he wanted to control the direction of the ship to prevent it from hitting the upside-down mountain. "You wait until I'm free. TCH. Who is afraid of whom? If you have the guts, come now. Everyone, please stop arguing." Jennifer, the ship's doctor, hurriedly came out to be the peacemaker. This beautiful doctor was only 1.6 meters tall and petite in stature. She looked gentle and cute. She was considered the favorite of the ship. "That's right. Stop arguing and look at the road. I don't even know where to go." "Don't worry. If you go further, there will be a sign indicating that the river is heading upward. Following the upward current, we can reach the Grand Line." Navigator Thompson already knew this information clearly. He knew that sooner or later they would reach the Grand Line, so he knew the route to the Grand Line very well. "That's an exaggeration. Will the river continue to move upward? So that's the case, then I'm relieved." This person was found by Carl in West Blue O'Hara, Nicole Fields. Through the last name, she felt that she was somewhat related to Nico Robin. Her strength was barely up to Vice Admiral, so she recruited him on board. There is also Johnson wearing a chef's hat, Davis, the gunner recruited by East Blue, plus Sparrow and his whole ship, exactly 10 people plus a white tiger. "Let's go to Sky Island first." There was no place he wanted to go in the first half of the Grand Line, and he had limited time, so he had to go to Sky Island first. He wanted to see if there was any thunderfruit. If there was one, take it. If not, he could use it as a backup base. After that, go straight to the Beehive Island in New World. Sky Island, is it an island in the sky? That's so cool. Thompson's purpose of going to sea is to see the beauty of various islands. This is his ideal. "We can't fly. How can we get up there?" Hunter held the turntable with his right hand and scratched his head with his left hand, and asked them with a confused look on his face. "Yeah, we don't know where Sky Island is either. I haven't heard of it either." Although Brown and his master have visited all the major islands in the first half of the Grand Line, he has never heard of Sky Island. "Go to Gaia Island first. After arriving at Gaia Island, I will tell you how to get up there." Carl wanted to wait until the time came and fly up directly. I saw it. Is this the soaring ocean current?" This was the first time Jennifer saw a river flowing upward. Although she had heard everyone talk about it before, seeing it with her own eyes was still a different experience. "Okay, let's move forward. Okay, let's go." Chapter 72. Flying to the sky after crossing the dangers of Upside Down Mountain, Carl and his party traveled dozens of nautical miles to the unique weather area in the first half of the Grand Line. It started to rain heavily, and the rainwater flowed down the stairs into the cabin. Several people quickly took out tools and dumped bucket after bucket of rainwater in the cabin to the sea. After more than an hour of busy work, the weather gradually became clear. However, before everyone could be happy for too long, the hot sun made them slightly dehydrated. Fortunately, the freshly cleaned rainwater is not contaminated and can be used as a normal source of fresh water. Just when they were worried about the lack of fresh water, the weather suddenly turned autumny and a huge uzumaki appeared on the sea. Everyone hurriedly maneuvered the boats to avoid this natural disaster. After successfully driving away from this dangerous area, snowflakes began to fall from the sky. Everyone hurried back to the cabin and put on thick clothes. Sure enough, a moment later, goose feathers and heavy snow were flying. In just 10 minutes, the snow on the cabin was already as high as a person. Everyone picked up tools again and shoveled the snow off the ship to ensure that the ship would not be crushed by the heavy snow. Finally, hail fell from the sky, and several people used their own methods to break the ice cubes one by one. After a series of bad weather tests, except for Carl, everyone else was exhausted and slumped on the deck. Jennifer brought out ginger soup in time to prevent everyone from catching the cold. When they finally sailed away from the treacherous waters, the sky finally became clear. After a short rest, everyone's physical strength gradually recovered. Carl immediately pointed out the first target location. Let's go directly to Gaia Island. Carl had already purchased the eternal pointer of Gaia Island. After Thompson took the pointer, he led Hunter to the destination. Except for Noti and Fields who were training on the side, everyone else played mahjong directly on the deck to kill the boring time at sea. Is this Gaia Island? Thompson looked at the eternity pointer in his hand, swinging from side to side, pointing firmly to the island ahead. Captain, Gaia Island has arrived, crewmember Thompson announced loudly. Reached. Carl was sitting on a chair resting. When he heard Thompson's words, he released his unique observation haki, sensing the sky. Hunter, adjust course and turn left 20 nautical miles. Carl ordered. Understood, Captain. Hunter immediately adjusted his course. Captain, aren't we going to the island? Someone asked curiously. Of course not, I will show you something exciting today. Carl smiled mysteriously. Soon, the ship sailed to the designated location. Carl pressed a button next to his seat. He was not doing nothing during this period. In the past 8 months, he has won the Mohist Machine Beast production method in Qin Shi Mingyue as a prize. The ship was modified to have the ability to fly. With the help of his golden light spell, the ship can fly high into the sky with ease. Crunch. The ship made a strange sound. Wow, what is this? Someone exclaimed. It's so cool. Fields ran over excitedly and took a closer look. Haha, this is our captain's masterpiece, the wings of flight. Hunter proudly said that he was the only one who knew the ship was capable of flight because he and Carl were involved in its construction. Okay, everyone, hold on tight, Carl shouted loudly. Carl lightly pressed the button on the ship, and the golden light spell immediately emitted a dazzling light, covering the 2 wings of the ship, providing assistance to it. The golden light spell has been taught to other people, but except for Noti and Fields, who have just started, others are not interested in it and cannot remember the specific operation method of the golden light spell. Perhaps because their talents are not as good as Noti and Fields. However, after several months of exploration, they were barely able to display some, which could be regarded as adding some defensive means to themselves. With the flapping of its wings, the ship gradually left the water and flew high into the sky. Jennifer was so frightened that she fell to the ground. That's not okay, Jennifer. Johnson walked over and helped Jennifer up. Ha 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 ha. You are afraid of heights. Fields strode over to Jennifer and lifted her up. After Jennifer was lifted up, she could clearly see the sea level getting further and further away. Her face was pale and her whole body was twisting, trying to jump off Fields' hand. Okay, Fields. Davis was the oldest present and more composed. Don't scare our ship's doctor, or you'll have to bear the responsibility yourself if you get sick in the future. Fields immediately put Jennifer down upon hearing this. Oh. Don't be angry, I'm just teasing you. Fields explained hurriedly. Jennifer refused, glared at him, pouted, turned and walked towards the cabin. Since she was afraid of heights, she just didn't look at him. What should I do? Fields was at a loss, and Brown poured cold water on him. It's going to be difficult now, Brown said coldly. Why are you everywhere? Fields responded dissatisfiedly. Okay, everyone, pay attention, we are about to arrive at Sky Island. A huge island is held up by white clouds, and layers of rainbows bloom on the island. From a distance, it is extremely beautiful. There really is a sky island. Everyone on the boat was amazed, as if they had discovered a hidden gem. I didn't expect the islands in the sky to be so beautiful. They gazed at the beautiful scenery and felt like they were in a fairyland like dream world. I'm here to take some photos to record everyone's wonderful life. Jennifer ran out excitedly, the camera hanging on her chest seemed to capture the happy moment. Smile. She happily captures every smile, click. Each photo is like an eternal picture of happiness. Boom. The ship docked steadily at the edge of the island. Carl turned around and looked at everyone, as if asking, who stays to watch the ship? I'd better stay. Davis took on the responsibility without hesitation, and while he was eager to explore Sky Island, he knew someone had to stay on board. Don't worry, Uncle Davis, I will bring you something good. Jennifer assured him with a smile. Then you should bring more. Davis touched Jennifer's head and said expectantly, I'm waiting for your good news on the boat. He waved goodbye to everyone, his eyes full of trust. Okay, let's set off. Carl led everyone towards the island, his pace full of anticipation. As soon as they got off the boat, everyone felt a little uncomfortable breathing. It turned out that the oxygen in the air was thin. After Carl's explanation, they took a short rest and then headed towards the town. Stop. Suddenly, two Sky Island natives with small wings rushed out of the jungle. They mistook this group of people for a sneak attack by the enemy. Qinghai people? They looked at the group of people in different clothes in front of them with confusion and vigilance. Take me to see Ganfu. Carl asked bluntly. Impossible. How can you be allowed to see God casually? One of the young men flatly refused. You want to see God, for what purpose? The other middle-aged man was calmer and tried to understand the visitor's intentions. Sorry, my time is limited. Carl's eyes suddenly became sharp, and an invisible pressure filled the air. The purpose of his coming to Sky Island was like looking for twinkling stars in the dark night. One was to use Sky Island as a hidden backup base, and the other was to search for thunderfruit across the island. Naturally, he couldn't waste time with the two of them. Finding Ganfu directly is the most efficient way. The two of them were locked tightly by Carl's sharp eyes, as if they were prey being targeted by a cheetah, and their whole bodies trembled, as if the superior person was naturally oppressing the inferior person. They knew that the man in front of them must be a strong man and they were unable to resist. The middle-aged man looked pale, sweating profusely, and mustered up his courage. Please come with me. The young Sky Islander was puzzled and whispered to the captain. Hey, Captain, is it really okay to take them there? Shut up. The young man doesn't understand, but doesn't the captain still know? The person in front of them could exude such courage casually, which was definitely something they couldn't handle, and they couldn't resist. The two of them jumped through the woods. Carl and his group followed behind. 10 minutes later, Carl, led by two Sky Islanders, arrived at a huge vine. The abode of God is up here. How are you going to get up there? The middle-aged Sky Islander looked at the high and low people in front of him, including women. He did not think that everyone present was strong. Don't worry about us, just lead the way, Carl replied. Whoosh! When the middle-aged captain heard what Carl said, he didn't ask any more questions. Instead, he turned around and skated up with the young Sky Islander. Bang! Bang bang! The two heard the sound below and looked down. I saw a few people below walking in the air even faster than them. Both of them were scared to death. They didn't expect that all those people could fly. They didn't make any small moves, but they seemed to move faster. Soon we arrived at the shrine of the palace god in Ganfor. The area of the Shinto shrine is actually not that big, about the same as the space enclosed by the university's 400-meter running track. There is a wooden fence around the edge, and there is a 3-story attic in the innermost part. Stop. Who are they? As soon as I came up, I met the guard of the god's shrine. The middle-aged captain answered to the guard. These are people from Qinghai, they say they want to see God. People from Qinghai, wait a moment, I'll go and inform you. Just when he was about to turn his head to report to God, Carl's faint voice came from behind him. Then no need. Now that we're all here, I can just go in by myself. Be bold. In God's place, you can actually do whatever you want. Buzz. A red light flashed in Carl's eyes. Plop. 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 The two leaders and the guard fell to the ground. Although this is not the first time I experience it, I can't help but surrender every time I experience it. This is the conqueror's haki that only one person among millions can own. Noti showed envy. Several other people nodded in agreement. Okay, let's get to know this god. Chapter 73. Burka. When Ganfor heard the noise outside, he had already come down from the attic, but as soon as he went out, he saw 3 Sky Islanders lying on the ground, and several strangers standing next to them. Are you from Qinghai? What did you do to them? Ganfuer's words immediately attracted everyone's attention. In recent years, people from Qinghai have often washed up on Sky Island near Gaia Island, so he was not surprised. However, those people were very weak, so Ganfuer did not give them the hot octopus, but was forced to do all kinds of heavy work. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is a slave. Even now, a small number of Qinghai people live on Sky Island. You are Ganfu. At this point in time, Ganfu is still relatively young and does not have as much gray hair as in the original novel. When Ganfu saw that the young man in front of him did not answer his words, he felt slighted and immediately roared angrily. You haven't answered me yet. What have you done to them? I'm not used to you talking to me like this, snapped. They're fine, they just passed out. I want to talk to you about something else now. Carl came to Ganfuer in an instant, grabbed his neck with his right hand, and lifted him up. Ganfuer's eyes widened, his face was covered with veins, and he struggled desperately, holding Carl's right hand tightly with both hands. There are actually no so-called good people among those in power in the pirate world. If you are strong, then everyone will show your good side to you, but if you are weak, then you will experience all the evil in the world. After all, this piece of land on Sky Island was snatched away by Ganfor and the others. Just when he was about to die, he threw him to the ground. Plop. Who? Can we have a good chat now? Carl let go of his right hand. Ganfuer looked pale and covered his neck with his hands. He didn't have the majesty he had just now. He sat on the ground in embarrassment, breathing heavily. Ganfu's face froze, and he glanced at the three compatriots who fell to the ground. He looked at Carl and his group again. Come with me. Ganfuer experienced the threat of death just now. Now he is a knife and a soldier, and I am a fish and meat. Thompson and the others didn't think there was anything wrong with the whole process. After all, this world is always dominated by the weak, especially among the strong. Several people followed Ganfu into the hall. Several people found some stools in the hall and sat on them. I'm here for two things. First, I need you to integrate all Sky Islands and recognize me as Lord. Second, after the integration, you have to help me collect all the fruits with mysterious patterns on this island. By the way, you can call me Carl from now on. After Carl finished speaking, he looked at the pale Ganfor. After feeling Carl's power, Ganfu knew that no one in the entire Sky Island could defeat him. Then he naturally has no right to negotiate terms. Don't worry, Lord Carl, this place will be yours to rule from now on. Ganfu actually doesn't have much nostalgia for this position. This position is said to be a god, but in fact it is similar to a king, and he does not have great rights. It's very good. Those who understand current affairs are heroes. I won't embarrass you. You will be my spokesperson on Sky Island. I'm optimistic about you and hope you won't disappoint me. Carl threw a bottle of Dahuandin to him and placed a phone bug and the number on the stool. After the incident was over, Ganfuer sent several people out of the door with a respectful look. By the way, let me show you my strength. Think about it again. What will be the consequences if you fail to do it? Carl's faint voice came from the front, followed by a roar that resounded throughout the sky. Ganfu's eyes widened instantly, as if he had seen something terrifying. The camera turned to the sky. The thick clouds in the sky were punched out of a large hole by Carl's unknown power. The surrounding clouds quickly dissipated, revealing the blue sky. This is the most terrifying power I have ever seen. Is he really human? Ganfu looked at Karkar's right hand that was slowly withdrawing, and his expression collapsed. Watching Carl and others leave. On the way back, Carl asked everyone to disperse. They could go wherever they wanted now. There was nothing that could threaten them on Sky Island, so they didn't worry about safety issues. After he left, he found a guide and asked about Burka's location, and then walked towards Burka's location. After more than 10 minutes journey, he arrived at Burka, a small island much smaller than Sky Island. In the original book, Enel got the thunder fruit on Burka Island, and he wanted to see if he was lucky enough to get it. I remember that there should be a box under a vine. Carl slowly recalled the episode when Enel had just eaten the thunder fruit. He did not go to the village of Burka, but went directly to the primitive jungle. After 3 hours of searching, I finally saw a small wooden box under a vine tree. Haha, I said my luck will not be bad. Thunderfruit, here I come. When Carl came to the pirate world, there were only 3 devil fruits he wanted to eat most. One was Mrs. Odin's fruit, the Paramecia time fruit. One was a space fruit that was unknown to exist, and the last one was naturally said to be the most destructive. Logia, thunder fruit. There are reasons why he chose these 3 fruits. The first is the time fruit. Although in Oda's setting, the time fruit can only travel to the future and cannot go back to the past. If he traveled to the pirate world, he might not want to get the time fruit, but who asked him to bring a cheat Chinese comic system? Maybe I can go back to the past with the help of the system. For space fruits, time is the king and space is the emperor. In the same way, he has many ideas in his head and can definitely use the space fruits in various ways. Moreover, the space fruit is a perfect devil fruit, whether it is for escaping, storing items, or killing people and hiding corpses. If he gets the thunder fruit, then he will maximize the power of the thunder, and maybe even develop it to create an effect similar to a catastrophe. In traditional immortality or fantasy novels, heavenly calamity has always been a powerful pronoun. Bang! Carl opened the wooden box and what he saw was a devil fruit that was completely purple and had protruding patterns on its surface. I guess this is thunder fruit. Ding! Congratulations to host for changing the plot of the Pirate World branch. 10,000 reward system points and a bottle of bloodline pill. When you hear the sound of the system, it seems that he is right. Bloodline pill. Used to stimulate the rare power of bloodline in the body. Carl looked at the introduction of the system and curled his lips. The system was getting lazier and lazier. It's really a systematic style. Is this an introduction? Calculating power, put it away first. Today's harvest is just as full. Carl looked ahead with a satisfied expression. The system opens the panel. Host. Lux D Carl Fusion Template. Under one person, the Heavenly Master. During the Qin dynasty, there was the Mingyue sword Saint Gai Ni, not fused, and the demon fox Little Matchmaker was powerful and wealthy, not fused. Skills. Armament Hockey, Advanced Observation Hockey, Intermediate Conqueror's Hockey, Marine 6 Styles, Shave, Tempest Kick, Golden Light Spell, Palm Thunder, Yang 5 Thunder, Tai Chi. Talent. Titan Power. Money, 3.7 billion Baileys. Items. Shaolin Great Returning Pill 4 bottles, 10 pieces per bottle. Weiyuan Pill 4. This is the lottery product of the previous 8 months. 4 bottles of Juvenile Great Returning Pill and 4 Weiyuan pills. Bloodline Pill 1, 10 pieces per bottle. Weapons. Fang Tian Hua Ji, Long Quan Sword, Great Kuei Dao Ji Yu Yu Dao, Da Kuei Dao Yinhe Dao. Devil Fruit. Asterisk 12 pieces. Rating. A first-class strongman on the sea, with comprehensive strength of admiral level. Carl looked at the increasingly rich system panel and stood up with some satisfaction. Although it took more than 3 hours of hard work to find thunder fruit, all the hard work was wiped out compared to it. He whistled and walked towards the shrine. He still needs to resolve the conflict between the Sandians and the Sky Islanders. Night. The lights were brightly lit below the shrine, and 2 groups of people stood on both sides clearly, looking at each other. They were Sandians and Sky Islanders. Tap. Tap. A slight but firm sound of footsteps came from the jungle. Hey, everyone is here. I'm here today to reconcile the conflict between you two. In my opinion, fighting over a piece of land is really boring. Okay, now, I will rule Sky Island. All of you must obey my orders. With steady steps, Carl walked straight to the seat reserved for him in front, then nodded to Ganfor next to him and sat down. Hey, who are you? That's why we should listen to you. You are so arrogant. As soon as he sat down, the 2 groups below raised objections. Buzz. Well, what's this? Hey, what happened? Carl's eyes widened, and a red ripple visible to the naked eye spread rapidly from his body and enveloped everyone. He said with a joking look on his face after seeing everyone present being pushed to their knees by his conqueror's haki. Arrogance requires capital. Unfortunately, my capital is stronger than yours. Natural selection, the weak eat the strong. Are you convinced? As soon as the words fell, everyone seemed to have found an outlet. I'm convinced, I'm done with it. We will all obey your orders from now on. Please take back your divine power. Well, that's right. Carl heard the voices of submission and dispersed the conqueror's haki. In this case, I hope you can live in peace in the future. I will form a new team, and everyone in the team will be taught my skills. Your only mission is to train and fight. As for the land, there is no need to fight for it. There is plenty down there. I will take the time to bring some up. Of course, you can ask Ganfu if you have any questions. He will be your captain from now on. Greetings to Lord God and Captain Ganfu. The 2 groups looked at each other, then fell to their knees and shouted loudly at them. In this way, the Sky Island Armed Forces was established. Chapter 74. Shantora. After what happened yesterday, the Sky Island Armed Forces Army was successfully established. The number of people in Sky Island is not large, and the establishment is tentatively designated as an army, although the actual number is definitely much lower. But more people will join in the future, and the regular army must still look like a regular army. Ganfor gathered together all the men between the ages of 18 and 35 who met the requirements. There were about 2,000 people in total, and asked them to combine in an open space on Sky Island tomorrow, which will be a military training base. At night, Carl told the crew about the news that they would go to sea tomorrow. Although everyone had not had enough fun at Sky Island, the captain's order could not be refused. Everyone said they understood, and then they were thinking about what to buy. At night, everyone went crazy on Sky Island to buy various specialties, and even played until midnight before returning to the ship. After all, it is not easy to come to Sky Island once, and we don't know when we will come next time. Carl is on the cabin, sorting out the things he will give to Ganfor tomorrow, because it is impossible for him to stay on Sky Island permanently unless he finds the flying Sky Island. Early morning. A total of more than 2,000 people were quietly waiting for Carl's arrival in an open space on Sky Island. Is Lord Carl not here yet? I heard that Sir Carl is going to sail today. Is it true? No way. Mr. Carl is leaving now. Cal settled the feud between the two tribes and even allowed the Sandians to own the land. He also promised that he would bring more soil later. It would not be an exaggeration to say that he is the bread and butter of all Sky Island staff. When a young man standing on the far side saw Carl coming from a distance, he immediately whispered to his companion next to him, "Master Carl is here." Then the voice spread, and everyone present saw Lord Carl and focused their eyes on Carl. When everyone present saw Carl approaching from a distance, the scene that was noisy just now suddenly became quiet. Carl walked up to the crowd and first called Ganfor. This is a video phone bug. Here are the full set of moves of 5 elements boxing and Baji boxing. After that, it's up to you to teach them how to practice. Don't worry, Lord Carl, I promise to complete the mission. Then the video phone bug prepared in advance was handed over to Ganfor, which contained videos of Carl's personal practice. Each move and style was broken down into slow motion to facilitate their understanding and mastering. His eyes turned to everyone present. You will be extremely honored by the decision you have made today. From today on, you are the first members of my Sky Island Army. You will form the first regiment of the Sky Island Army. The leader is Ganfor. As he spoke, Carl looked at Ganfor, who nodded to everyone. Since it is an army, then the army has army rules. I need you to enforce the laws and prohibitions, and the winner is king. Carl looked at the somewhat confused people, and then explained. Carrying out orders and prohibitions means obeying Carl's words. Carl asked them to go west, but they could not go east. The meaning of winner takes all is that every position is determined through a competition, and whoever has the bigger fist can be qualified. But there is one thing. If this person is verified to be non-compliant, he will not be able to take this position. The people present quickly identified 4 battalion commanders, 12 company commanders, some platoon commanders, squad leaders and others. After everyone stood up as a battalion and a square, Carl began to explain the next task. Next, I need you to integrate all the surrounding Sky Islands. Bring all the land you can see under Sky Island's jurisdiction. Carl paused to let everyone present digest the news, and then continued. Any stranger who comes to Sky Island in the future must be under your supervision. If there is an adulterer, you have the right to kill him first and then punish him. At this point, he paused and scratched his head. He found that the strength of everyone present was not generally weak. If it weren't for Qinghai's difficulty in getting to Sky Island, maybe the gold on Sky Island would have been robbed by pirates. Then, followed by another mouthful. Of course, you still have to undergo 3 months of basic training before you can officially start the outward expansion work. The next step was to teach them how to conduct military drills. First, the battalion commander and company commander were called out. First, it took more than an hour to hand over training methods such as Q training and physical training to them. After they had a general grasp, they disbanded the small temporary team and asked them to hand it over to more people. Then their big exercise began. Carl actually has no experience in becoming a king. Now he doesn't know what they can do after they are established, because the power of Sky Island is so big and it cannot compare with Qinghai. But at least to complete his idea, he must first gather all the power of Sky Island together, Master the technology that allows Sky Island to rise and fall at will in the sky. And build Sky Island into a hidden rear area. And the removable Sky Island is definitely a killer and must be firmly held in your hand. After he took care of these things, he asked Ganfu to take him to the Golden Land. Because the communication between Sky Island and Qinghai was more difficult, and the number of people on Sky Island was sparse, a large amount of gold was of little use to them. After all, Sky Island, the currency of island, is specially treated shells, and Bailey is not that circulated here. Ganfor led Carl through a jungle. When they were about to walk out of the jungle, there were bursts of dazzling light in front of them. The two quickened their pace and soon saw the scene in front of them. It was a field of shining golden light. Yellow ruined palace. This is the legendary Golden Land, Shantora. Most of the buildings in Shantora are made of gold. In the original book, Enel took all the gold here and dissolved it to create the all-gold spaceship, Arc Proverbs. If this were in Blue Star, I wouldn't have posted it. Carl quickly recovered. Although he was not dizzy by the large amount of gold, his current smile was even exposed and could not be concealed at all. Then in Ganfuer's shocked eyes, large pieces of gold began to disappear. Carl did not take away all of them, but only 2/3. It was not that he did not want to install it, but that the system space could no longer accommodate it. The original intention of the system space was to facilitate carrying some items, so the area is not very big. At this time, Carl was a little disgusted. He felt that the area of the system space was too small, and it was simply not enough to take away all the gold in front of him. To say the least, it was caused by being too greedy. The secret that you have guarded for generations, the golden bell, is on top. Carl quickly processed the gold and ignored Ganfor's shocked expression, but motioned for him to look above the vines. The vines above were obscured by large dark clouds, and nothing could be seen at all, but he thought that Carl had no reason to deceive him. Okay, if something happens later, give me a call. I still have something to do, so I'll leave first. Although Ganfu was a little anxious, he wanted to see the golden bell now and see what the ancestors were guarding, but he had been waiting for it for so many years, and it was not too late to sort out the priorities. Ganfu looked at the top of the vines with some nostalgia, and then followed Carl towards the ship. On board the Qinglong, No Ti and others had been waiting for a long time, and even played several games of mahjong. No Ti saw Carl coming this way from a distance, and immediately overturned the card table in front of him, because the cards he grabbed were bad cards and he didn't want to play for a long time. But when he looked at the glaring eyes of several other people, he felt something bad and quickly shouted to Carl. "Captain, are you leaving?" "Yes, we're leaving soon." Although several people present were a little angry, they did not show it. They immediately cleaned up the mess in front of them and waited for Carl's order. "Remember to call if you have anything." After Carl got on the boat, he said to Ganfuer on the shore. "Please don't worry, Lord Carl. I will definitely try my best to complete the tasks assigned by you." Ganfuer saluted a military salute on the shore and watched Carl and others leave. He clutched a medicine bottle tightly in his left hand, which contained the Shaolin Great Return Pill. After watching Carl's ship gradually disappear from sight, he put down his right hand, turned and walked towards the direction of the Golden Bell. "Thompson, our next destination is the Sabodi Archipelago. Sail directly to the New World. Now that the preliminary layout is over, they should return to Beehive Island. Whether these seeds can take root or sprout depends on their own efforts." "Understood, Captain." Thompson showed a row of white teeth, then found Hunter, changed the direction of the ship, first slowly landed on the sea, and then headed straight towards the Sabodi Archipelago. "Are we going to New World? But I haven't gone shopping in the first half." Jennifer pouted, and her whole face looked a little unhappy. She hadn't experienced the first half of the show yet. After all, she was here. "Not now. Our target is too big. If we are exposed in the first half, we will be rounded up by naval headquarters. With your current strength, you may have to spend the rest of your life in prison. You don't want me to visit you in prison in the future, do you?" Carl looked at Jennifer with a playful expression. "Never." Seeing Carl's evil smile, Jennifer tilted her head and thought about that scenario, and immediately shook her head. Boom. At this moment, a bell resounded across the sky from Sky Island in the distance. Carl looked at Sky Island in the distance. It's not bad. Chapter 75. Sabaody Archipelago. They have the eternal pointer of the Sabaody Archipelago, because it is the only way to the New World. Because we were driving in a straight line, we were able to reach the Sabaody Archipelago in just 3 days. Wow, it's so spectacular. So beautiful. Jennifer stood at the deck rail. That sweet voice attracted the attention of Noti and others, and everyone turned to look at the Sabaody Archipelago and a huge tree in the distance. Sabaody Archipelago is located near naval headquarters. It is famous for having the world's largest mangrove, Yarchman mangrove. The roots of the tree are exposed on the water. Over time, today's Sabaody Archipelago is formed. It is also the most prosperous island in the pirate world. 1. The biggest feature of Sabaody Archipelago is the natural resin secreted by the roots of Yarchman mangrove trees. The resin expands due to air to form bubbles, and then flies into the sky. Since bubbles are only suitable within the climate range of Yarchman mangroves, once the bubbles are detached, they will be unable to exert their power and explode, so various bubble buildings can only be seen in the Sabaody Archipelago. In Sabaody Archipelago, bubble cars, bubble Ferris wheels, bubble houses, etc. These architectural cultures permeate every place in Sabaody Archipelago. There are a total of 79 trees on the island, and each tree is numbered. The most notorious thing here is that there are mainly human trafficking, human auctions and some illegal areas from 1st to 29th. This time we will be fair and draw lots after we dock. The person who draws the shortest number is responsible for guarding the ship and supervising the coating people to coat the ship. Before the boat reached the shore, Carl saw Davis's figure ready to move. He knew that it would be impossible to let Davis guard the ship every time, and it would also be unfair to Davis. So he was already prepared and interrupted Davis, who was about to speak. Everyone looked at Carl. He stretched out his right hand and clenched it into a fist with 10 small wooden sticks stuck on it. Carl looked at everyone with a smile. "I'll come first, it can't be me." Brown jumped out first and was the most active on the boat, and he always thought he was very lucky. "Let me see, is this long or short?" Brown looked at the small wooden stick in his hand and couldn't tell the difference for a while. "Hurry up, so I can know if it's me or not." Brown looked at everyone's indifferent look and urged him repeatedly. Everyone came to their senses and began to extract them one by one. Brown jumped up and down as each man pulled out a stick, for each one was the same length as his. "Haha, it's really not me. No? How could it be me?" Noti looked at the small wooden stick in his hand, which was obviously shorter than everyone else, with a frustrated expression on his face. "Okay, now that the outcome has been decided, Noti, you will be responsible for watching the ship. The coating time should be 6 hours. We hope everyone will return to the ship within 6 hours. Okay, the rest of the time is up to you. I'm leaving first." After Carl saw that the matter was over, he was the first to get off the boat with an excited face and walk towards the prosperous area in the distance. "The captain is too anxious. I'm leaving too." Although Fields is a martial arts fanatic, this does not mean that he does not want to experience the customs of the Sabaody Archipelago. Besides, there is a possibility of encountering fishmen here and an encounter between humans and fish. "Then just follow me." "All right." Jennifer knew that she was the weakest in the entire ship, so she did not refuse Davis's invitation. After everyone left, Thompson first went to find the coating master. After negotiating the price, he handed over the supervision to Noti before starting to enter the Sabaody Archipelago. Noti felt a little bored as he watched several coaters starting what he thought was a boring job. He grabbed some things on the boat and fished on the shore. The goals of several people were different. Davis wanted to find a weapon store to see if there was any handy pistol. Jennifer wanted to see the medical books on the island, so after a short decision, the two decided to accompany Davis to see if there were any handy pistols, and then accompany Jennifer to the bookstore to buy some medical books. Fields wanted to go to the island to see if he could meet Murlocs and ask them for Murloc karate lessons. After all, he was a martial arts fanatic and had a strong interest in martial arts training. Brown's purpose was actually similar to Davis's. He wanted to find out if there were any famous knives for sale on the island, because he was still using an ordinary knife. The purpose of Smith and Hunter's visit to the island was more to purchase the ingredients they would use on their next journey. Because there are 3 big eaters on board, there is not enough food on board every time. The first one was Carl. Although he used the bone shrinking technique, his figure was still 4 meters away. Not to mention Noti and Fields, one is 4.2 meters tall and the other is 3.9 meters tall, and their appetite is no smaller than Carl's. Therefore, they must purchase abundant ingredients to meet their needs for long periods of drifting at sea. After taking care of everything, Thompson first went to the prop shop on the island to inquire about and purchase eternal pointers from some famous islands in New World. The cash used by several people to purchase items was all gold obtained on Sky Island, so they are not short of money now. Carl first experienced the feature of Sabo de Archipelago, the bubble amusement park. As a modern person, it's not too much to experience an amusement park. After he had fun for a few hours, he seemed a little satisfied. The most important thing was that he hadn't paid yet. And I haven't paid yet. Don't ask why I haven't paid. When he came out of the amusement park, he started walking towards Island 29. It's not that he hasn't changed yet, but he will never hold back against human traffickers no matter when he encounters them, not to mention that the Sabo de Archipelago is the pirate world and the headquarters of human trafficking. It would be okay if he didn't come here, but now that he's here, he has to pull it out anyway. After all, human traffickers are one of the types of people he hates the most. As for whether it will rise again in the future, that is a matter for later. In the blink of an eye he reached number 29. I happened to see 2 sneaky people following a beautiful little girl. Hey, you two. Just when the 2 men started to put on sacks, they were startled by the sound. What brat would dare to stand in the way of my good deeds? The 2 turned their heads to look at Carl fiercely. Seeing the faces of the 2 people, Carl smiled knowingly. The villains were firmly engraved on their faces. They should appear in fairy tales and can definitely stop children from crying. What's the matter with you? The 2 of them watched Carl's tall figure walking towards them, and with it came a strong sense of oppression. They have been slave traders for more than a day or 2. They can naturally tell who is easy to mess with and who is not. After the 2 looked at each other, they quickly turned around and ran away. Bang! Ouch! After just a few steps, he seemed to hit a wall, fell backwards, and sat down on the ground. What? Why did you see me running? The 2 of them looked up and realized that this was not a wall, it was obviously the person just now. Sir, please spare us. We are young and old. Yes, please forgive me, sir. I still have a child waiting to be fed. This person can actually appear in front of them in an instant, which proves that his strength is definitely not that bad. The 2 knew they couldn't fight, so they could only kneel down and beg for mercy. Take me to your base camp and spare your lives. Carl wanted to deal with these 2 directly, but after thinking about it, he might not be able to find their lair after dealing with these 2, so he decided to let them live a little longer. Okay, sir, please come this way. After receiving Carl's reply, they breathed a sigh of relief, relaxed and wiped the sweat from their foreheads. Knowing that their lives were not in danger for the time being, the 2 of them stood up quickly and led the way with funny faces. Carl followed behind them while observing the surrounding environment. The 2 people actually didn't think much about it. They just wanted to live, so they took Carl to the slave trading base camp number 29.